Chapter 1. Fairy Tale S-Class Wizard. In the kingdom of Fiore, in the town of Magnolia, commotion erupted along a busy street. People scattered in all directions to get out of the way. Between the timbered buildings, a 10-meter-tall rock golem strode forward, each footfall making the ground tremble. Its body had been sculpted with care. Two massive stone swords jutted from its shoulders, and its eyes burned like a fearless soldier's. A biting wind whipped a red and black windbreaker around the shoulders of the man standing on the golem's shoulder. He was lean, hands in his pockets, his calm gaze fixed down the street where a familiar guild hall sign could be seen. Where did this lunatic come from? How dare he stroll down the street and block traffic? An annoyed passerby shouted. A young magician planted his feet, and a magic circle flared beneath him to try and stop the golem in its tracks. Hey, don't do this, little brother. Move aside. That golem's just passing through. A middle-aged man rushed up as well, trying to pull the magician back. As a local, he seemed to know about these things. The magician's lips curled into a confident smile as he rolled up his sleeve to show a guild emblem tattooed on his arm. Retreat? Are you kidding me? I'm the strongest mage of Black Griffin. At the name, the older man's face registered surprise. He didn't know that guild and, confused, muttered an apology. The young mage's confidence evaporated in an instant. He swore, slammed his magic circle to life, and prepared to show everyone his power. If you're going to use magic, don't say I didn't warn you, someone called, voice cutting through the rise of tension. The man on that golem is Cheslinadoga, an S-class mage of Fairy Tale. Hearing those words, the would-be showman froze. Fairy Tale? S-class? Cheslinadoga? The thought was like ice in his veins. Pride and swagger drained from his face, and in the next heartbeat, he turned and bolted. I don't care if you're Black Griffin or White Chicken Hand. I'm out of here! He didn't even make it 10 paces. The rock golem swung an arm and kicked him hard. He flew through the air, spun 2.5 times, and landed headfirst in a nearby trash can while the golem kept walking as if nothing had happened. The golem stopped in front of a modest 3-story building that looked more like a tavern than a mansion. A flag with a dancing fairy fluttered in the wind. The wooden nameplate read Fairy Tale, the most famous wizard guild in Fiore. Chess snapped his fingers. Between his fingertips, a card with a black vortex on its back appeared. A dazzling light flared beneath the golem's feet as red and black luminescence coalesced into a slowly rotating magic circle. The golem dissolved into countless specks of light and merged into the circle. Chess lightly drifted to the ground and slipped the Yugi Muto card back into his deck, the Yugi Muto Pharaoh deck, the strange cheat he'd gained when he transmigrated into this world. By infusing magic into the cards, he could summon monsters from the deck to fight, much like Star Spirit magic. It's been over a year already. Coming home after being away always feels so overdue, Ches murmured, listening to the loud, boisterous clamor spilling from inside through the half-open guild door. He raised 2 fingers and made a polite knocking motion. The wooden door didn't stand for politeness. With a tremendous crash, it shattered, sending splinters flying and billowing smoke into the street. Normal people knock when they come home. This was Fairy Tale. Normal procedures had never been their strong suit. Enemy attack? Someone yelled. Ha ha! Some idiot actually came here to pick a fight. Man, don't fight me for it. Let me beat the intruder to a pulp. Get lost, Elfman. This is my chance to shine. The guild members immediately buzzed with excitement, rubbing their fists and turning toward the doorway. Most guilds would meet a smashed door with caution, but Fairy Tale barely waited to see who'd arrived before scrambling to be the one to fight. The mood was raucous and eager. Oh, you gonna beat me to a pulp? Elfman, long time no see. You look even more manly. That voice froze everyone. Thick smoke parted, and the figure they'd been arguing about stepped into view. Elfman, who'd been the loudest, went slack and hurriedly put himself between his friends and Chess, trying to act casual as he glanced at Mira by the bar. Mira, where were we? Right, didn't we say someone needed to bring in the laundry? He blurted. Mira rested a hand on her dress and smiled sweetly. Under his sister's cover, Elfman managed to defuse the situation. The others who'd been shouting, Jet, Troy, Warren, and a couple of extras, backed away in perfect sync. Macau, however, was a beat slower and suddenly the most conspicuous person in the room. You bastard, when? Macau found himself singled out, his eyes nearly popping. He spat curses at his comrades for making a run without him. They didn't tell me. We're fairy tale. Damn it! Chess took a step forward until he was standing right in front of Macau. The guild veteran felt cold sweat prick his forehead. He knew Chess's reputation well. Chess might be able to give Natsu or Gray a fight, but against him, Macau would be in real trouble. Resigned, he squeezed his eyes shut, bracing for a beating. Instead, Chess's serious face suddenly broke. He pointed at Macau's nose and erupted into laughter, even blowing a snot bubble. Pfft! Ha ha! Isn't this Macau, the guy who couldn't even beat a broken ape? It's been over a year. How did you get so weak? Chapter 2. The most destructive person open mockery cut through Macau's thin pride like a blade. He flushed and barked at Chess. What do you mean, even a broken ape? I took down 19 of them at once, you bastard. When a man's dignity was on the line, Macau didn't care what kind of terrifying monster the other was. Only you would care about the number. If it were me, I wouldn't have needed Natsu or the others to rescue me at all. Kana, sprawled across the bar table, belched and said nonchalantly, only you'd brag about a tally. Macau's mouth twitched, his nerves were already frayed, and took another hit. Chess grinned and turned the teasing to someone else. By the way, Kana, have you settled your drinking tab with the council yet? You still haven't paid, have you? Kana's grin froze. She slapped a card down on the counter with a clack and shot back. Who are you calling poor, Chess? Chess ignored her slurred roar and swept his gaze across the rest of the guild. Vegeta, I heard you ran to the kingdom's castle in the middle of the night to dance, got chased as a pervert, and only escaped by hiding in a dumpster? And you, Loki, what were you thinking flirting with a council member's granddaughter? And you with the big grin over there. Yes, Alzak, spying on the women's bathhouse with a magician's sniper scope. Hasn't Biska put a bullet in your head yet? With each name Chess dropped, a fairy tale member went beet red, their tempers rising as fast as their embarrassment. The whole guild's atmosphere heated up. Here we go again. In a corner, Lucy, shoulder-length blonde hair, sighed as if resigned to it. That's Chess Linadoga for you, she murmured. Fairy Tale's S-class mage, the card master. He causes huge disturbances wherever he goes. She'd read about Chess in the paper. Watching the guild teeter on the edge of collapse, she couldn't help but think, this description actually fits. Leather boots approached, and a shadow fell over her. Lucy looked up. Chess, who had been standing by the door moments before, was suddenly in front of her. You're Lucy? He sat down across from her like an old friend, crossed his legs, and without ceremony, drank the glass of iced orange juice sitting in front of her. Are we that close that you drink someone else's drink without asking? Lucy's inner voice boiled, but outwardly she kept the polite shyness expected of a newcomer. Mr. Chess, do you know me? Chess set the empty glass back and adjusted the handle so it faced her, as if nothing at all had happened. Lucy's mouth twitched. She was about to snap when Chess said casually, Even though you just joined, Lucy, your name's getting around. Really? You know my name? Did you see it in the paper? I didn't think I'd become famous so fast. Lucy scratched her head shyly. Her chest swelled a little with unearned pride. But don't worry, I won't let it go to my head. I'm still a newcomer. My magic isn't as strong as Natsu's or the others. I'll work hard to get stronger. Chess shrugged. I heard about it on my way here. Oh, really? So the people in Magnolia already accept me? Lucy beamed. They said that as soon as I joined, I messed up Harujian Port, and everyone was so worried. Even I got lectured. Her smile faltered as Aquarius's indiscriminate tidal wave flashed in her memory. No, whose mouth has been flapping? She cursed silently and blurted, I'm so sorry. I really am. I'll be more careful next time. In her panic, she forgot she was sitting, and thud. Lucy's forehead met the guild's solid bar table with a loud knock. Ouch, ouch, she gasped, clutching the bump. The guild's tables and chairs were built like they wouldn't budge no matter what, so they were perfect for this sort of thing. Chess sighed, even dumber than I expected. Lucy's head rang and she blinked, long lashes fluttering. What did you say? You and Natsu really are two of a kind, Chess said with a smile. Two of a kind. Does he mean the port incident? What an awful resume. Lucy's mouth twitched. She had no comeback. Then the guild erupted in laughter. people clutching their sides and slapping tables. When it came to destruction, Chess put Natsu to shame. He'd gotten 10 compensation complaints from the council in just half a month. If not for that, Master Makarov wouldn't have sent him on that 10-year mission. Cheerfulness spread through the hall, but Lucy felt like the only one suffering. Hey, Lucy, Ches is actually the biggest destroyer in our guild. Even Natsu can't top him. Someone called. Happy's blue head popped out from Lucy's chest. Huh? Lucy widened her eyes. So Chess and I are actually two of a kind, with Natsu. She glared at the cat. Would it have killed you to tell me earlier? Why does Fairy Tail have a destructive record they're proud of? She added, voice quick and sharp. And don't pop out from weird places. If I'd told you, I wouldn't have had the pleasure of seeing you so embarrassed. Happy grinned, covering his mouth mischievously. That feline. Lucy ground her teeth and clenched her fists. Her anger was close to the limit. The members, the master, and this S-class mage were nothing like the invincible guild she'd admired in stories. The polite, awkward smile she offered was her last bit of dignity. Then a broad hand reached out in front of her. Anyway, Lucy, welcome to Fairy Tail. Chess's smile was contagious. After a few seconds, Lucy's own smile broke through. She took his hand, gave it a firm shake, and nodded. Different as they all were, Fairy Tail still felt the best. Then Chess added casually, by the way, what are your measurements? Chapter 3, Duelist. What kind of decent person asks a girl such a private question the first time they meet? Don't ask something that makes people uncomfortable in such a casual, polite tone. Ahaha, sorry. Maybe that was a bit sudden. Chess scratched his head, looking flustered. After a moment, he grinned and said seriously, then I'll tell you mine. I'm not remotely interested. Who cares about your useless measurements? Lucy snapped, all admiration for the elusive S-class mage evaporating. Her voice jumped several octaves as she let loose. Spittle flew and hit Chess in the face, but he didn't get angry. He just laughed and wiped it off. Ha, don't be so worked up. It was only a joke. That wasn't funny at all. Lucy was still furious, all teeth and claws. Chess seemed pleased, as if he'd achieved exactly what he wanted. Compared to that shy, uncertain look you had before, Lucy, honestly, I prefer you like this, saying what you feel, he said with a smile. That's the kind of spirit a Fairy Tail partner should have. Laugh when you're happy, curse when you're mad, fight when you want to fight. Lucy froze as the rest of Chess's words sank in. Could his earlier rudeness have been a deliberate way to shake off the instinctive fear of S-class mages? The life he described, loud, messy, free, was exactly the kind of life a sheltered girl raised in a cold, strict home could only dream about. It was the life Lucy secretly admired. Mr. Chess, you. She couldn't hide her surprise and a little awe. Not important, Chess waved it off. Come on, enough chit-chat. A rough, excitable shout cut through that moment. Hey, Chess, come at me already! A boy with short pink hair and a scarf leapt out from the crowd, flames flaring in his hands as he charged. No doubt about it, this was Fairy Tail's most battle-crazed dragon slayer, Natsu Dragneel. Natsu? Lucy tensed beside Chess. With a stance like that, you're not leaving the other guy any room to refuse. Lucy, Natsu already said hello. Happy floated over, hovering in the air. That's his kind of greeting. What kind of greeting is that? At least give someone a heads up. Lucy rubbed her forehead. If your target is Chess, you wouldn't get a chance even with a warning. Happy thought for a beat. Although you probably wouldn't get a chance even with a surprise attack. Natsu? Surprise attack? No chance. Lucy, who'd seen Natsu's Dragon Slayer power up close, couldn't reconcile those words with the display she'd witnessed. Before she could figure it out, Natsu had closed the distance to Chess. His right fist erupted in dragon fire, so close they were practically face to face. Lucy almost shouted a warning, but a sudden flash from a magic circle stopped her. When she opened her eyes again, shock widened them. Natsu was frozen in mid-advance. The flames in his hand blazed, but he couldn't move at all. Under his boots, golden lines traced a six-pointed star. An outer circle etched with ancient runes pulsed with a strange energy, and binding power flowed outward, holding him fast. Still as reckless as ever, Natsu. Chess's face was calm. A card had appeared between his fingers. Trap card, six-pointed star binding. constructs a binding magic circle using the user's magic power, severely limiting the target's movement. Damn you, chess. Don't look down on me. I'm dozens of times stronger than I was a year ago, Natsu roared. His magic power spiked and his whole body ignited. He forced a violent surge of power and tore himself free from the six-pointed star binding, smashing a blazing fist toward Chess's face. Ha! Got him! Natsu laughed triumphantly. Chess didn't flinch, the corner of his mouth tilted into a smile. We'll see about that. Bang! Flames scattered, and when the smoke cleared, Chess was unhurt. A small chestnut furball with a dopey expression had leapt between them and absorbed the strike, nullifying the damage. Monster card. A cheap but useful shield negates a single instance of damage. Kuriboh gave a squeak and dissolved into starlight. Chess looked up and teased the slightly stunned Natsu. That wasn't as impressive as you made it sound. Those flames are only good for lighting birthday candles, Natsu snapped, jaw tight. How dare you? This is the fire Igneel taught me. As Natsu flared up again, condensing dragon flames, Chess's expression changed. He had been relaxed, but at the name Igneel, something shifted. It wasn't that Natsu's power alone worried him. Natsu still had a long way to go before troubling an S-class mage. It was another name tied to Igneel that made Chess tighten, Fire God Dragon Ignea. In the original history, Chess had heard of Ignea, the son of the fire dragon king Igneel, and one of the 5 dragon gods who appeared after Acnologia's death. More than that, during his 10-year mission on the Kiltiana continent, Chess had accidentally crossed paths with Ignea. The memory of that battle, a sea of purgatorial flame that could reduce a city to ash, still haunted him. Compared to that world-ending inferno, Natsu's current blaze really was like candlelight. Such a cute little fellow. Is your summoning like Star Spirit's magic? Lucy, who'd stepped back to the edge of the guild hall, stared at Chess. As a Star Spirit mage, she was sensitive to summoned creatures, and Kuriboh's appearance had caught her eye. Not exactly. Happy answered promptly beside her, sounding like a commentator. Kuriboh blocking an attack is a monster, and the 6-pointed star is a trap card. Both are Chess's magic, his card duelist soul. Happy dug a few gold coins out of his bag, fluttered over to the betting table Macau and the others had set up, and quietly placed his bet on Chess. Lucy followed him with her eyes and froze. All the chips were stacked on Chess's name. There wasn't a single coin on Natsu's side. Hey, Lucy, want to bet too? If you put money on Natsu, the payout's huge. Happy tempted her, fluttering his whiskers. The others glanced over invitingly. Lucy felt their expectant stares and pointed at her own face. Do I look like someone who'd hand over money to you guys willingly? She might be a newcomer, but the scene was clear. Everyone was backing Chess. From that, Lucy could draw a quick and undeniable conclusion. S-Class Chess was terrifyingly strong. Chapter 4, Dark Magician, 10-year quest bang. A sharp crack split the air. Natsu was just about to strike again when Chess beat him to it, landing a lightning-fast friendship face-breaking punch square on his jaw. Natsu howled and flew backward like a cannonball, smashing into the tavern table behind him. Chess mainly fought with cards, but as an S-class mage of fairy tale, his magic was dense and plentiful, and he wasn't weak physically either. Wood splintered and dust billowed. A few people who'd been sitting at the table were sent sprawling by Natsu's collision. You candle-on-cakes idiot, do you want to die? Gray barked, getting to his feet. He stalked over, grabbed Natsu by the collar, and yanked him up until their foreheads touched. Natsu's face was smeared with spit. You pervert? You really said that? You want to fight? Natsu spat back. Gray couldn't keep a friendly expression either. He craned his neck and met Natsu head-on. If you're that weak, stop barging in and making a fool of yourself. With how pathetic you are, you still want to take on Chess? I'm giving that right back to you. If you weren't interfering, I would have knocked Chess flying already. What did you say, reckless flame? I said you're a coward who won't even face Chess, just cowers in the back. I can't pretend I didn't hear that. After their usual boisterous back and forth, Gray pulled himself away from the scrap with a grunt, clenched his right fist, and swaggered toward Chess. Watch closely, I'll show you how I beat Chess. Halfway through his showy speech, a chill ran down Gray's spine. He looked down and, to his disbelief, realized his clothes, yes, his pants, were somehow on the floor a short distance away. My clothes disappeared? When did? Gray's face registered absolute shock. Completely ignoring his exposed state, he glared at Chess. Hey, Chess! How much stronger did you get while you were away from the guild? Lucy, the newbie, flushed bright red and hurriedly covered her face. Ara, she murmured. Mira, leaning on the bar, smiled serenely. A flip-flop hung from her slightly crooked forehead, the one that had flown off when Natsu had been flung into the table. She was used to sights like this, and looked at Gray's well-defined backside without embarrassment. The rest of the guild held up their hands to their foreheads in speechless exasperation. Gray, although I really could strip you clean in an instant now, I don't have that kind of perverse hobby, Chess said, rubbing his chin. You took them off yourself. Eh? I took them off myself? Gray was stunned, his expression a mixture of indignation and confusion. Hey, you perv, I've got an idea. Natsu strolled over, beaming his usual grin. How about we team up and take Chess down together? Team up with you, you idiot flame. Gross. Gray snorted, but then his mouth twitched into a grin. Still, if the opponent's Chess, who's basically a monster, that mightn't be a bad idea. Just like that, the pair who were like fire and ice came to an unspoken agreement. Shoulder to shoulder, they laughed and moved on Chess. Their alliance lifted the spirits of Macau, Kana, and the others who'd been mocked earlier. They jumped out eagerly. Ha ha! Don't blame us for ganging up on you. You're the one who's too strong, Chess. This time I'm putting my flip-flop print on your face. Manly! Smirks full of mischief spread across the guild. Magic circles flared in many hands as they closed in on Chess from all sides. They'd been itching to rough this bastard up for a long time. Oh, that's an impressive momentum. All right then, time to get serious, Chess said, a slow smile curving his lips. Instead of advancing, he took a step back and slammed his foot down. My turn. Draw. He reached into the void with a crisp, elegant motion. A glittering card sliced the air. Buzz! A terrifying pressure followed it. Red and black light flared throughout the guild, weaving together into an ancient, mysterious magic circle. A phantom materialized beside Chess, a magician in a black and purple robe, staff in hand. Lucy's pupils shrank. From that flickering figure came a magic power vast beyond her comprehension. The new recruits shrank back, trembling in a corner. The 7-star card was about to descend when a calm, firm voice cut through the tension. Stop it, Chess. This guild building can't withstand the strain of your magic. A small voice called from the second-floor railing. Makarov, wearing a top hat, peered down at Chess with a frosty look. Oh, Guildmaster, you were here too? Chess feigned surprise. Don't play dumb. You're just trying to tear the place down, aren't you? Makarov barked. After years of dealing with complaints from the council, he knew Chess's antics better than anyone. Aha, you've got it wrong. How could I have such a dangerous thought? Chess chuckled, scratching his head. The black magician faded before fully forming, and the oppressive magic lifted. Makarov shot a stern glance at Natsu and the others, who were still bristling to fight. Only when they calmed did he turn back to Chess and ask in a heavy, serious voice, How did that 10-year task go, the one no challenger has managed to complete? Chess let out a long breath, walking past Natsu and the others to where Mira stood at the bar. She understood immediately. With her trademark sweet smile, she turned and made a cup of coffee with sugar. Chess took it, sipped. The sweet and slightly bitter flavor warmed him. As expected, Mira-chan understands me, he said, tilting his head back and scratching his hair. He set the cup down, meeting Makarov's gaze. Sorry, Guildmaster, the 10-year task. He paused, then finished quietly. I failed. Chapter 5. Having an affair? I failed. Those 4 simple words sent shockwaves through the quiet guild hall. Faces around the room, Natsu's, Gray's, the others, tightened with disbelief. They were reluctant to accept it, but Chess had earned his S-class title in real fights. No one doubted his strength, and yet he couldn't complete a 10-year mission? Is that so? Even you couldn't manage it. Makarov, the guildmaster, looked surprised, brow furrowed. What happened exactly? By his reckoning, Chess's power might not guarantee a flawless speedrun, but finishing the request shouldn't have been that difficult, just more time. That was why he'd sent Chess out. He could handle missions and wouldn't be loitering in the guild. Chess sighed and sat on the bar counter as if the whole thing were a minor annoyance. Following the usual procedures, it shouldn't have been a problem. he said slowly. But I had bad luck. Right when I was wrapping up, I ran into a huge dragon, completely crimson. His tone was calm, almost casual, but in Fairy Tale, the words hit like a bomb. Gasps rippled through the hall. A giant dragon that's completely crimson? Chess, are you talking about those legendary monsters? Not just a nickname? Do dragons really exist? How strong must something like that be? Wait, you escaped from its attack? Everyone swarmed around him, chattering at once. Lucy covered her mouth with both hands, eyes wide with shock. Natsu was the dragon Igneel, she blurted before anyone else could. Natsu shoved people aside and barreled to Chess, eyes blazing. Chess glanced at him coolly, and his sharp look seemed to pierce right through Natsu to the fire dragon king sealed inside him. It breathes fire too, but no, it's not Igneel, Chess said. Natsu's face fell for a moment, then shot back up with renewed excitement. You heard that, right? Dragons do exist. I really was raised by Igneel. The guildmates humored him out of habit. The years of his fruitless hunt for a father had worn thin, but news of a real dragon only fed his obsession more. So you actually fought it? Were you hurt? Mira asked, worry written all over her face. Chess tensed, remembering the life or death struggle. A flash of loneliness crossed his features. It wasn't really a fight. That thing was overwhelmingly powerful. One breath of its fire wiped out the army of monsters I'd summoned. I was no match. I barely escaped with a magic card, running from its claws. He paused, then shifted to a more teasing tone as he looked at Mira. But I did get hurt. My fragile heart was traumatized, and it needs soothing. I need to go on a date with a beautiful woman. Mira visibly relaxed. She pointed at Lucy, who had shrunk into the corner like a startled animal. What luck! Lucy is a top-tier beauty, face and figure. Huh, Lucy snapped, indignant. Chess hesitated, then nodded. She's a little scatterbrained, but acceptable as a date. Lucy's jaw tightened. What do you mean, a little scatterbrained? If you can't speak properly, just be quiet. Mira straightened, hands clasped on her dress. Her smile turned sweeter, but there was a sharp edge to it. Ha, thinking it over, I don't feel traumatized anymore now that we're back in the guild. Chess chuckled, scratching his head and taking a step back. Lucy's indignation melted into curiosity. Something's going on here. I'm going to have to ask Natsu and Happy about this later. Good to see you're all right, Makarov said, eyes lowered. He waved a hand. Chess, report the details of the mission to me. Come to the second floor, he added. Failing a 10-year mission was serious. It cost the client's trust and could damage Fairy Tale's reputation, so the follow-up and compensation were necessary. But what worried Makarov more was the crimson dragon Chess had mentioned. He had never seen such a creature. Those beasts existed in legend, and the thought both piqued his curiosity and set off alarms. Before Chess could answer, Natsu bolted for the stairs, desperate to hear more. He had completely forgotten the guild rule. Only S-class mages were allowed on the second floor. As expected, Makarov's shadow fell across him. A huge hand swept down and pinned Natsu to the floor with one heavy thump. Natsu, you're not allowed upstairs yet, Makarov scolded sternly. Makarov wanted the discussion away from the younger members. Dragons could traumatize impressionable kids and derail their progress. Natsu, raised by a dragon, might be fine, but rules were rules. Given Natsu's nature, if he couldn't go up, he'd pester Chess later for every scrap of information. That was Chess's problem to handle. Chess stepped over the sprawled Natsu with a smug look. Ha! Try to get S-class soon, little brother. Natsu, after this year, I'm definitely going to make S-class. Natsu ground his teeth, but under the guild master's glare, he gave up forcing his way up. With the would-be warrior subdued, the rest of the guild, despite their curiosity, shrugged and went back to drinking and chatting. One person, however, did follow Chess upstairs, Mira. She walked slowly after him toward the second floor. Makarov shot a quick look over his shoulder and then looked away. Mira had changed since the incident years ago and now worked as a harmless barmaid, but her S-class status was real. He couldn't really object. Hey, Happy, what's Mira's relationship with Chess? Lucy asked, unable to keep her gossiping curiosity down as the two disappeared upstairs. Happy rolled his eyes and stretched out a paw. Trade me 1 box of dried fish and I'll tell you. A box? I haven't even paid my rent yet. Lucy clutched her small purse. She just joined the guild, hadn't taken any solid jobs, and money was tight. Where was she supposed to get fish to bribe a cat? Fine, then I won't say anything. Happy looked perfectly pleased with himself. You damn cat! Lucy exploded, glaring at him. Chapter 6. Flame Dragon Ignia. Compared to the spacious, open first floor of the guild, the second floor felt cramped. Only a few square tables sat in the middle, and the notice board held only a handful of meager job requests. Makarov walked straight to the neat little bar, pushed off with his feet, and nimbly hopped onto a high stool. Chess followed and settled beside him. Movements casual and at ease, there were no stiff rules between guildmaster and members here. Fairy Tale was more like a big family. Mira, in a wine-red dress, moved behind the counter, deftly mixing fruit juices and alcoholic drinks for anyone who wanted one. Makarov accepted the drink she handed him, glanced at Chess, and asked plainly, "Chess, what did that dragon on the Kiltiana continent look like? Is it really unbeatable?" In a world ruled by magic, especially in a kingdom like Fior, dragons were the stuff of nightmares. Ancient legends said they could flatten entire towns with a single breath, far beyond anything human magic could counter. Dragon Slayer magic, like Natsu's, had its roots in that terror. Chess described the dragon he'd encountered. It was entirely crimson, enormous, with razor teeth and claws. Its scales were as hard as iron, and its sinews hummed with violent, overflowing magic. He lifted his coffee, took a small sip, then sighed heavily. I can't say for sure whether humans could beat it, but one thing's certain, tying 10 of me together wouldn't be enough. Mira covered her mouth in disbelief. She knew Chess's strength. Among Fairy Tale's S-class wizards, he was top tier. Even Urza had admitted she wouldn't beat Chess at full power. By Fiore standards, Chess belonged among the 10 wizard saints. If he said 10 of himself wouldn't win, the situation had to be dire. Chess, noticing her worry, set down his cup and gave a soft, rueful laugh. That's actually a conservative comparison. Makarov and Mira leaned in when he continued. That monster isn't an ordinary dragon. In that encounter, it called itself Ignia, the flame god dragon. The name hit like an electric shock. Makarov's and Mira's faces went pale. Makarov drew a long breath to steady himself. Is it related to Igniel, the fire dragon king who raised Natsu? Chess nodded. According to it, Igniel is its father. That would make it Natsu's half-brother. Different mothers, same blood. That piece of information came from something Chess alone knew as a transmigrator. The truth was harsher than the words suggested. He'd stumbled on Ignia while the dragon was in a state of partial self-sealing. To avoid attracting the black dragon, Ignia tried to conceal itself, but in the brief clash it let out a roar so overwhelming it reduced Chess and the summoned card monster to dust. If Chess hadn't known what to expect and been prepared, if he hadn't used a magic card, Monster Reborn, at the critical moment to revive, he wouldn't have come back at all. There had been no civilized exchange. Ignia hadn't even deigned to speak to a mere human. Mira tilted her head, thinking. The half-brother detail oddly eased some of her fear and even sparked a whisper of curiosity. Gossip, she admitted to herself. Chess's expression turned serious. Don't get me wrong. That monster is cold-blooded and brutal. It treats humans like ants. There's nothing like Natsu about it. Sorry, Mira said quickly, flushing as she realized how trivial her curiosity sounded in light of the danger. Makarov watched the ripple on his drink, then set down his cup and spoke quietly but firmly. You can tell us a little about the dragon, Chess, but do not, under any circumstances, let Natsu know about Ignia. He'd watched Natsu grow up and knew how reckless the boy could be. If Natsu caught even a hint, he'd head straight for Kiltiana. Chess and Mira both nodded in understanding. Rest and stay in the guild for a while, Makarov added after a moment. Though Chess looked casual, the old man could see the exhaustion beneath his calm. He felt a fatherly ache. Chess hesitated. But Guildmaster, what about the fallout from the failed 10-year mission? Makarov cut him off, slapping the counter lightly, his voice no nonsense. But what? I've told you enough times. Stop worrying. Haven't you cleaned up enough messes for me already? Chess's face broke into an easy grin. Heh. All right, I'll leave it to you. Makarov raised an eyebrow at the mischievous smile and had an odd foreboding, but he let it slide and waved them off. When the three of them returned to the first floor, the usual raucous noise dimmed, and dozens of eyes turned to Chess. Everyone was curious, except Lucy, slumped in the corner, idly tracing circles with her finger and looking crestfallen. She couldn't help herself and paid Happy a small fortune for gossip. The payoff was disappointing. Chess and Mira weren't a couple. They'd never been on a mission together, and there were no juicy rumors to chase. Lucy's disappointment was sharp. Watching Happy sulk while rubbing the money that should have been hers, she couldn't help but scold herself inwardly. Lucy, you are a super big idiot. Chapter 7. Chess versus Natsu. Hey Chess, quickly, tell me what that dragon looked like. Natsu's voice jolted Lucy out of her sulk. She stood slowly and watched as Natsu barreled over to Chess in a few quick strides, grabbed the collar of his shirt and shook him so hard spittle flew. Chess's expression said it all. This kind of brash, impulsive energy was a headache. To shut Natsu up, Chess found a bar stool and sat down. Surrounded by the rest of Fairy Tale, he began to describe what had happened, deliberately downplaying parts of it. He left out the dragon's real name, Ignia, and instead seriously stressed how terrifying and enormous the creature had been. When he finished, instead of standing frozen like the others, Natsu waved at Happy and headed for the guild door in a blur. Happy, let's go. Kiltiana Continent. That fire dragon has to know something about Igneel. Aye. Happy spread his wings and followed without a word. The rest of their friends reacted with alarm and rushed after them, trying to stop him. Charging off to confront an extremely dangerous monster with no plan was suicidal. But Natsu wanted to find his father and wouldn't be swayed. He shoved Elfman's hand away when Elfman tried to pull him back. Hey Natsu, Chess said calmly. Natsu spun around. Chess, you gonna stop me too? I wouldn't, Chess said. You're free to go where you want. But Kiltiana's huge. Don't you want the exact location where that dragon showed up? At that, Natsu, already halfway out the door, changed direction. Just as he was about to ask, Chess did something odd. Under everyone's confused stares, he reached down, plucked an ant from a crack in the floor, and set it on the bar. Ask it, Chess said. The guild went silent. The ant nibbled a breadcrumb, innocent and oblivious. What kind of joke is this? Chess, are you messing with me? Natsu shouted. He swung a backhanded blast of fire and incinerated the tiny creature to ash. That's the answer it gave you, Natsu, Chess said, almost gently. He blew the charred remains into dust and met Natsu's angry glare. This ant is me at the time, Chess continued, and you're the fire dragon you met. A monster with absolutely overwhelming power wouldn't give a weakling like an ant a chance to speak, much less exchange information. I don't know the personality of the Igneel you keep talking about, but whatever that tyrannical creature was like, it certainly wouldn't be chummy with humans. The words hit Natsu like a bucket of cold water. The veins on his forehead eased and his bravado drained away. He wanted to argue, but his earlier impulsive act, burning the ant, had made his point for Chess. Unless he was delusional, he couldn't realistically have a genuine conversation with that dragon right now. Chess patted Natsu on the shoulder. Instead of running around like a headless fly, do something useful. Train. Get stronger. When you can beat me, he added, I'll tell you exactly where that red dragon appeared. Chess turned to leave. He looked exhausted. Having fought Ignia and traveled for 2 days and nights, he had every right to be. Makarov had predicted as much. Chess headed toward his home in Magnolia. A scorching heat washed over the guild from behind. Temperatures climbed several degrees. Hey! So all I have to do is beat you now, huh? Natsu roared, energy flooding back into him. A confident grin lit his face, and his right fist flared with dragon fire. Chess said a lot, and you only listened to the last sentence. Lucy sighed, holding her forehead. She couldn't help but watch, torn between dread and the ridiculousness of it all. Natsu always has the most adorable way of doing things. A soft voice answered her. Lucy turned to find Mira standing at her side. Cute? Lucy's mouth twitched. I wouldn't call him cute. Mira smiled and nodded earnestly. I would. She glanced at Natsu, then added with a light laugh. By the way, Lucy, I went up to the 2nd floor earlier. The 2nd floor? Lucy blinked. According to the guildmaster, only S-class mages had access to the 2nd floor. Don't be fooled by how I look, Mira said. I'm an S-class mage too, though I can't compare to Chess and the others. What? Lucy blurted. You're new. Isn't S-class a little ambitious? Focus on more missions first. So I seem ambitious? Mira looked slightly mortified, then brightened with a nervous laugh. Before Lucy could say more, an explosion interrupted them. The side wall of the guild ruptured, splintering wood and plaster in a wide arc. Tables and chairs flew. The street outside was a chaos of debris. In the wreckage, Natsu lay in a heap, seeing stars and wondering how his life had gone so badly. With one blow, Chess had utterly incapacitated him. So fast, he was defeated too quickly, Lucy exclaimed, looking at the mess. And this is going too far. Natsu hadn't had his chance to act reckless, but Chess, he was the one they should have been most worried about. Lucy's words slipped out before she could stop them. She clapped a hand over her mouth, but it was too late. Mira's composure shattered. Tears streamed from between her fingers as she buried her face in her hands. Wah! Chess hasn't been back for so long. I should have noticed him. I'm sorry, Lucy. I should have listened and stopped them in time. No, it's not your fault, Mira. Lucy scrambled to comfort her, flustered and upset. The guild smoldered around them, and for a long moment the only sounds were the crackle of settling flames and Mira's sobs. Chapter 8. Black Magician Girl night fell and stars dotted the sky, casting a faint glow over the quiet town of Magnolia. In a small detached house by the river, Chess, freshly returned from a long mission, relaxed in a cool bath. Although Fairy Tale had member dormitories, he didn't live there. He had used the money from his requests to buy this little place in town. It wasn't that Chess liked being alone. The word quiet never really suited him, but Makarov had kicked him out of the public dormitory. Rebuilding the dorm every time it got wrecked had become a heavy expense. It's definitely more comfortable at home. I haven't been back in over a year, he said to himself. Chess stepped out of the bath, bare-chested, wearing only light blue leggings. His well-defined chest and back were crisscrossed with scars. The most gruesome was a claw mark that ran through his shoulder and abdomen, the proof of his fight with Ignia, the flame god dragon. He padded into the spacious living room, collapsed onto the soft sofa, and reached for a can of black tea on the coffee table. He set the special kettle on the table, infused it with magic power, and steam rose as the tea brewed, filling the room with a faint, pleasant aroma. Magic really is useful, he murmured, savoring a sip. The rich flavor spread through his mouth and down his throat, loosening the tension in his shoulders. Chess closed his eyes and leaned back, letting the air conditioning cool him. Drinking tea was one of his favorite ways to unwind, along with causing a bit of destruction, unintentionally, of course. After a while, fully rested, he sat up. He raised his right palm, and a bright light flickered, condensing into a small magic circle on the coffee table. A stack of cards appeared from it. Chess picked one at random, and a golden light radiated from the card as he turned it over. The monster's image and information filled his mind. Osiris the Scraggin, 10-star monster, one of the 3 legendary phantom gods, possesses world-destroying power, requires a specific incantation to summon. The Yugi Muto deck he'd been given by the Duelist Soul Cheat wasn't complete. Aside from the guaranteed starter cards, additional cards dropped randomly from powerful enemies. The harder the fight, the rarer and stronger the cards. The total number of cards in the deck also influenced his magic power limit, his most important crutch as an otherwise ordinary person trying to rise to Fairy Tale S-class mage rank. Normal training alone was too slow. To grow quickly, Chess needed to fight strong opponents and collect powerful cards. There were 3 kinds of cards in the deck: monster cards, trap cards, and magic cards. Summoning monster cards depended on Chess's own magic power. The higher a monster's star level, the harder it was to bring it forth. Besides the Sky Dragon he had just drawn, the highest star-level card Chess owned was an 8-star Chaos Black Magician, which required his full strength to summon. Trap cards needed chant time. To trigger instantly, they had to be set up ahead of time, like the hexagram curse he'd used to restrain Natsu by predicting his movements and finishing the chant in advance. Magic cards had fewer prerequisites, but required more magic power to use than trap cards. With my current magic power, summoning the Sky Dragon would be tough, Chess thought, frowning. He hesitated, then slid a different card out with a backhand and channeled magic into it. The wooden floor lit up with a pattern of glowing runes. Pink light pulsed, and inside it, a faint figure began to take shape. When the formation faded, a girl stood where the light had been. She had long, pale yellow hair, delicate bangs and large, lively emerald eyes. A blue, conical hat with pink stripes perched on her head. A yellow collar with a red gem circled her neck. Her outfit, a blue off-the-shoulder tube top, connected to a pink short cape and matching short skirt, with wristbands and boots in blue and pink, accentuated a tall, curvy figure that was both cute and a little flirtatious. In her right hand, she held a blue and pink magic staff. 6-star monster card. A prodigious girl skilled in dark magic. True to form, the black magician girl looked slightly clumsy. She misstepped as soon as she appeared, stumbling and nearly doing a Wendy-style fall. With a strained gasp, she caught her balance, forcing her body upright with an impressive twist of her waist. "Ta-da! Black magician girl makes her dazzling appearance," she announced. "Long time no see, master," she added, striking a cute pose and making a peace sign with her left hand. Like Lucy's celestial spirits, Chess's card monsters had personalities, consciousnesses, and souls. When not summoned, they lounged around in the deck. Chess blinked at the girl and shook his head. "What do you mean, long time no see? We just met 2 days ago, remember?" he said. Black magician girl pouted. "What? That was because Master set the magic formation all wrong." Chess couldn't help rolling his eyes. "Could you stop with the entrance poses? And do you remember when you stepped in cow dung last time?" She flushed. "That was because Master placed the formation haphazardly. Constantly reading the environment and making quick judgments is part of being a magister," Chess said, pretending to be stern. "If you run into an enemy's arms again, it's not going to be as simple as getting your boots dirty." "Oh, Master would never summon us into real danger," she replied, rolling her eyes and trying to change the subject. The cow dung incident had indeed been her fault, and if the original Black Magician ever heard about it, she would be scolded. So Black Magician Girl busied herself by picking up the teacup and handing it to Chess. Before he could answer, she peered out the window at the night sky, rested her chin on her hand, and said thoughtfully, "Looks like it's not time to warm Master's bed yet." Chess nearly sprayed tea across the room. "When did I ever ask you to warm my bed?" Black Magician Girl grinned, crossing her arms. "Huh? Does Master actually have thoughts like that?" Chess's mouth twitched, and he didn't reply. He quietly drew another card from the deck. Black Magician Girl's expression shifted instantly. She slid to her knees beside him, clinging to his thigh in a pitiful, apologetic embrace. "I'm sorry. Really, I'm so sorry," she pleaded, eyes wide and full of guilt. Chapter 9. Intrusion. Natsu and Lucy's night raid? Heh, I can handle you. Chess nodded with satisfaction, slid the card back into his deck, and straightened his expression. "There's a particularly important matter that requires your help," he said seriously. He gently pushed the clingy Black Magician Girl aside, drew out the Sky Dragon card, and held it up for her to see. She had been ready to resume acting cute, but the moment she caught sight of the Sky Dragon, her pupils narrowed and her expression went deadly serious. "Wait, this is the Sky Dragon of Osiris?" "That's right, a new companion I picked up after fighting that fire dragon. I was traveling, so I hadn't told you all about it. That stinking, fire-breathing lizard. Next time I see it, I'm gonna beat it up." The Black Magician Girl clenched her fists, anger flaring. She still remembered how, when she'd first appeared in that terrifying fight, she'd been pierced by the dragon's claw charged with dragon fire, and had sadly retreated back into the deck to slumber. Revenge was definitely on her cards. "But right now, I want to try summoning the Sky Dragon," Chess said. "You help me maintain the activation of the Book of Secret Arts." He handed her a magic card. When she reached for it, a magic circle flared and an ancient book, quill floating above its pages, materialized in her palm. The pages turned slowly, emitting faint starlight. Chess closed his eyes. His chest rose and fell as his power swelled. He could have maintained the Book of Secret Arts effect on his own under normal circumstances, but summoning the Sky Dragon was too dangerous. His mind and nervous system had to be razor-focused to prevent accidents. That was why he had waited until he was back in safe Magnolia to test it. "All right, let's begin." Under the Black Magician Girl's anxious watch, Chess inhaled deeply, pressed his index and middle fingers together, and raised the Sky Dragon card above his head. He adopted a severe expression and began to chant in a low, measured voice. "When the sky thunders and chaos reigns, Gather the ancient magic books in the chain. Their power can reach infinity. When good and evil converge, begin the ritual to summon the judge of the dead. Descend. He was about to call out Osiris's name when a sudden, violent boom cut him off. An explosion? The sound echoed through the hall. No, it wasn't an explosion. A ragged voice shouted from the doorway through the smoke and flying splinters. "Hey, Chess! We came to play with you." Natsu strolled in casually, stepping over the shattered pieces of a door. Behind him, Lucy stood wrapped in a towel, looking mortified, and Happy followed, beaming and "I." The two groups stared at each other across the cloud of sawdust and debris. Lucy blinked at Chess, who was still holding his dramatic, over-the-top pose with the card raised. Remembering the lines she had overheard in the corridor just moments before, she found herself strangely amused. She hadn't expected the imposing Mr. Chess to get so theatrical in private. She recovered instantly, then performed several perfectly executed humbling bows. "Mr. Chess, I'm so sorry. I was going to knock, but Natsu he broke in. I'm truly, truly sorry." Let's rewind a little to when Ches had first returned to his residence. On the second floor of a house across the river, with the window open to the night, Lucy had just finished bathing. Wrapped in a towel, she sat at her desk with a quill, writing her novel. "It's only been 2 days since I joined the guild, and I'm already getting more familiar with my companions," she wrote. "Happy, that dead cat, tricked me out of 3000 J. I must remember that debt, make sure I don't forget when I wake up tomorrow." She recorded everything she'd seen and heard at the guild that day, funny moments and annoying ones alike. Her lips curved when she described the lively scenes, and she clenched her fist when she scrawled about Happy. The most memorable thing was meeting the famous Mr. Chess and hearing about dragons. The S-class mages of fairy tale are terrifyingly strong. When will I ever reach that level? Oh dear, I definitely was a little delusional," she added, shaking her head and blushing. She still had a long way to go. "Mr. Chess is much kinder and more approachable than the rumors make him out to be." Lost in thought about how to describe Chess, she froze when she heard chewing sounds coming from the small living room outside her door. A thief so soon after she moved in? Her nerves snapped taut. She grabbed her celestial spirit key from the desk and tiptoed to the door, only to stumble on a scene that made her lose composure. Natsu and Happy had somehow gotten inside her house and were raiding the refrigerator and the snacks she'd just bought. Empty bones and crumpled wrappers lay scattered across the otherwise tidy living room. "Natsu! Happy! How did you get in here?" she cried. "Yo, Lucy, good evening," Natsu said with a greasy smile, meat dribbling at the corner of his mouth. "Good evening. My foot! This is my house, my private space." "Whatever," Natsu shrugged. "We just came to hang out." "I don't remember inviting you over," Lucy sputtered, furious. "And that dead cat. Stop sharpening your claws on my newly renovated wall. Aye, Lucy, have some delicious dried fish." Happy produced a blue dried fish from his bag and proffered it. "That's bought with my money, isn't it?" Lucy's mouth twitched. Anger marks practically popped on her forehead in exasperation. "Oh yeah, Lucy. What were you doing in your room? I thought I heard writing." Natsu poked his head in to peek at the desk. "Ah! Go to hell!" Lucy's secret, her novel, was on the verge of being discovered. Her face turned crimson. She whirled, delivered a flying kick, and slammed Natsu's head into the wall beside the door. The plaster cracked in a spiderweb. Natsu immediately spat blood and fell down. He was truly put out of commission the instant he stuck his head in. Happy shivered and muttered, "Lucy is scary. Lucy is scary." They all calmed down, and Lucy didn't haul the two intruders before the council. Instead, she made them each a cup of hot tea. She'd intended for them to drink it quickly and leave, but Natsu's persistence led to her showing off her celestial spirit magic. The two of them stared in amazement. "Hey, Lucy, want to go see Chess's place? It's just across the river, super close," Natsu suggested with a mischievous grin. He was still smarting from being knocked out by Chess with a single punch earlier and wanted payback. "Wait, what? Mr. Chess lives right across from me?" Lucy's eyes widened in disbelief. "Isn't it a bit late for a junior to visit a senior? Maybe we should wait until tomorrow." "Ah!" Before she could finish, Natsu grabbed her hand and hauled her toward the windowsill. With a loud crash, the fragile pane shattered. Glass sprayed everywhere as Lucy's enraged scream split the night. So you weren't asking me. You were just telling me. At least let me change into proper clothes. And can't you leave like a normal person? The scream echoed as the pieces of glass glittered in the moonlight, bringing the flashback full circle to the present, where Lucy was bowing profusely in Chess's smoke-filled hall, apologizing for the mess her uninvited friends had made. Chapter 10. Lucy, did you fart? At Chess's house, a handful of people clustered around the coffee table. So that's the story. Let's not even bring up that brainless idiot Natsu for now, someone said. Lucy, is that why you ran into someone else's house wearing only a bath towel? Chess, who'd heard the whole account, peered at Lucy and said seriously, I never guessed you'd have weird habits like Gray. Joining Fairy Tale was definitely the right move. I? Happy raised his hand in agreement. I, my ass, Lucy thought, clamping the towel tighter at her chest as her mouth twitched. Chess wasn't wrong. Being called an exhibitionist like Gray by someone who asked for a girl's measurements as soon as he met her, and then standing shirtless in a room with a ridiculously cute young girl, the thought made her flush with anger. Wait, ridiculously cute young girl? Lucy blinked and realized the black magician girl was sitting next to Chess. She frowned and stared, feeling a strange sense of familiarity. That girl, who looked about Lucy's age, definitely wasn't a fairy tale mage. Where had she seen her before? Lucy racked her brain until she caught sight of the distinctive hat the girl wore. Her eyes lit up. You wouldn't happen to be the super famous black magician girl who was in Magic Weekly Sorcerer, would you? She asked. Bits of memory slid into place. A year ago, Lucy had followed Fairy Tale obsessively and read Magic Weekly for Mira Jane's features. The black magician girl had been very popular then and had even released several photo books. She had never imagined meeting her in a situation like this. And apparently, the black magician girl was very close to Mr. Chess. Magic Weekly, huh? That does bring back memories, the black magician girl said with a nostalgic sigh. She glanced down at the guild crest stamped on Lucy's hand. You look new. You're a newcomer to the guild, right? Yes, nice to meet you. I'm Lucy Hartfilia. I just joined 2 days ago, Lucy replied, bright and excited. The black magician girl smiled and shook her hand. After introducing herself, she puffed out her cheeks and murmured, What a cute girl. Master must be secretly pleased again. Master? Lucy's gaze darted between Chess and the black magician girl, suddenly buzzing with gossip. Besides her and Natsu, Chess was the only other person here. So the master the girl mentioned had to be Chess. He wasn't just a severe Chunibyu case. He was secretly a massive pervert. These two are definitely involved. At once, Lucy's face burned scarlet as R-rated images invaded her mind. Hey, Lucy, want to do business with me? I can give you a 20% discount. Happy seized the opening. Once he'd tasted success, he never missed a chance to go after Lucy's purse. Lucy snapped out of her daydream and glared at Happy. Again? A 20% discount? I want to break your bones. The memory of their earlier lost bet made her see red. Do business. What kind of business? Chess asked, curious. If his memory served, this interaction between Lucy and Happy didn't happen in the original story, did it? Oh, it's nothing, Happy began, but his neck was suddenly pinched by a pair of white arms. No, Happy is drunk. Yes, that's it, Lucy said, forcing a fake smile and holding Happy against her chest to stop him from talking. If Chess found out she'd been prying into his scandals, it would give a terrible impression. Can you even get drunk on tea? The black magician girl said, glancing at the teapot on the coffee table. She looked at Happy, who was being squished by Lucy's cleavage and slowly deforming, and added, But with Happy, anything's possible. Happy! Woo! The little cat protested indignantly. I'm innocent. Whatever, more importantly. Natsu suddenly stood, his right fist flaring with flames. Hey, black magician girl, long time no see, fight me. Are you sure, Natsu? Masters help me get stronger, the black magician girl said, totally at ease with Fairy Tale's rough-and-tumble style. She rubbed her hands, and her magic staff began to glow. Just then, thump, thump, both of them received an iron-handed smack from Chess. Clutching their heads, they dropped to the floor in pain, their reactions comically synchronized. Use your brains, look at your surroundings, this is my house, Chess scolded sharply. Lucy, whose own home had already suffered, nodded vigorously at the scolding, ready to give him a thumbs up for stopping the fight from happening in anyone's house. Then, remembering whose house was actually being protected, she promptly lowered her thumb and went quiet. Hobbled by Chess's intimidating glare, Natsu and the Black Magician Girl gave up the idea of fighting and obediently sat back down. The chaos settled. After introductions, Lucy learned that the Black Magician Girl was one of Chess's card monsters, contracted to him, similar to Lucy's contracts with Aquarius, Taurus, and the others. She also understood the magic behind Chess's power, duelist soul. Good thing I didn't fall for that rotten cat Happy's trick, Lucy thought with a small private relief. A magic I haven't heard of before, Mr. Chess's duelist soul, Lucy said aloud. Chess nodded. There are trap cards and magic cards, he explained. It's somewhat like your celestial spirit magic. My card monsters are partners I take very seriously. He spoke with quiet pride. Their companionship had shaped him, both physically and mentally. Lucy empathized, nodded, and smiled brightly. Then a strange little sound drifted from behind her. Poo-poo-un. Lucy, did you fart? Chess asked bluntly, not bothering with ceremony. No way! Lucy snapped, mortified. She turned, scooped up a small white creature with a pointy nose and round head that was trembling in her arms, and offered it to Chess. That sound came from this child. His name is Plu, the Canis Minor celestial spirit I just signed a contract with. Plu weakly raised his paw and said, Poo-poo. The Black Magician Girl's eyes lit up. What a cute little snowman. Not a snowman, Lucy corrected, passing Plu over carefully. He's Canis Minor. Canis Minor. The Black Magician Girl hugged Plu close, rubbing and petting him until Plu looked like he had lost any desire to live. Too much adoration. Plu, huh? I bet he'd get along great with this guy, she said. Chess nodded, snapped his fingers, and drew a card from the air. Kuri? A Kuriboh floated up, blinking its enormous, adorable eyes. Chapter 11. I'm Lucy, not Daisy. It's the cute furball that showed up earlier today. This time it was Lucy who was smitten. She spread her arms and squealed as Kuriboh floated over to her. Kuriboh gave Lucy a curious look, glanced back at Chess for permission, and after getting a tiny nod, it drifted right into her waiting embrace. After a round of enthusiastic petting, the two girls set their adorable companions down on the coffee table. Kuriboh and Plu stared at one another for a beat and a half. Kuri? Poo-poo. Kuri. Poo. After a series of chirps and squeaks that sounded like secret code, the pair held pause and immediately began rolling around together, fast friends. The world of cute little monsters was impossible to resist. Neither Plu nor Kuriboh seemed to bother Natsu at all. He glanced at them, shrugged, and looked away as if they were background noise. He propped his chin on his fist, as thought for a moment, then turned to Chess. Chess, when I came in just now, I felt a huge magic power spike. That was you, right? I think I felt it too, Lucy agreed. Chess spread his hands and admitted, well, yes, I was about to summon a new card monster when you barged in. A new card monster? What is it? Tell me. Natsu immediately perked up. Don't get all dramatic. Natsu, this is a legendary, insanely strong monster, basically god tier. Osiris, the Sky Dragon. Chess cut in with a mysterious smile, producing the Sky Dragon card and setting it on the coffee table. Natsu and Lucy leaned in and froze. The card's image was terrifyingly majestic. A colossal dragon with scarlet bone-like wings, twin fangs, taloned limbs. Just looking at it made their stomachs drop. The monstrous aura projected from the card hit them both like a physical thing. It was the presence of a godly phantom. Dragon? Natsu's face went white. Perhaps because of Dragon Slayer magic, his body trembled from head to toe. Lucy gave an audible gasp. Mr. Chess, are you really planning to summon that thing here in Magnolia? In a populated town? Her words slammed into Chess like thunder. His expression changed in an instant, eyes wide, mouth open, pure, genuine shock. Oh, right. I didn't think about that, he said at last. That's the look of someone who didn't consider the consequences. Lucy pressed a hand to her forehead, speechless. Chess had actually wanted to summon a dragon in town, and Natsu had been talking about finding dragons in town. No wonder they got along so well. Birds of a feather. The reliable S-class mage image Chess had been maintaining in Lucy's head collapsed entirely. Well, that's unexpected of you, Lucy. Suddenly being practical, Chess recovered and coughed to hide his embarrassment. He'd never really expected to succeed with the Sky Dragon summon in the first place, so he hadn't been thinking about the fallout, panic among the townspeople, the headache of filing reports with the council. All that red tape was a nightmare. No, is it really so surprising that I can think of what any normal person would think of? Lucy pointed at herself incredulously, her still damp hair frizzing with the stress of it. Clearly Chess was the idiot here, acting without considering what might happen. Chess leaned in conspiratorially, whispering into the black magician girl's ear, "Lucy gives me the vibe of a silly, dumb, easy-to-trick little girl." "I heard that," she snapped. "Ah, well anyway, thanks for the reminder, Daisy," Chess said, scratching his head and giving a sheepish laugh. Lucy completely broke down. "You're not even pretending anymore. I'm Lucy, not Daisy." A sudden heat rolled through the room as Natsu, fuming at the thought of missing a fight, cheered. "Chess, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and summon the dragon." "It looks insanely strong. I want to test my Dragon Slayer magic on it." There were still people willing to pick a fight. Lucy sighed and put a hand to her forehead, utterly drained. According to how she imagined the evening should have gone, she should have been curled up in bed right now hugging a soft pillow. How had she ended up stuck with these two big idiots? About that," Chess said, taking the Sky Dragon card back. He looked over at the trio, Happy, Plu, and Kuriboh, who were awkwardly cuddling, and admitted, "I don't have enough magic power to summon the Sky Dragon right now." He'd realized this the moment he'd been chanting. Even though Natsu and Lucy had burst in and interrupted him, he had still caught a glimpse of that oppressive shadow in the back of his mind, the Sky Dragon's presence, fleeting and overwhelming like a meteor. Using his secret technique to even glimpse it had drained his entire reserve. If he forced the summon, he could maybe make it appear for a second, useless and dangerous. Better to wait. Chess wasn't too disappointed. He had expected it. The rarer and harder to summon the monster, the more valuable it would be later, especially if he had to face things like Zeref, Acnologia, or the 5 dragon gods someday. "What a shame," Natsu said, deflating as the flames flickered out around him. "Lucy, Happy, let's head back," he added, waving at the exit through the hole in the wall where the door used to be. The little night raid had been about giving Chess a hard time for earlier. Now that Kie magic was drained and the dramatic Sky Dragon couldn't be seen, there was no reason to loiter. Lucy sprang up and agreed immediately. She still wanted to chat more with the black magician girl, but she couldn't stand being in Chess's house another second, especially not in that outfit. "Wait," Ches called after the three, who were already halfway through the wall. "Lucy and Plu can go, but Natsu, who broke my door, and Happy, who scratched my coffee table, don't rush off," he said, stretching and cracking his knuckles. "Come back here for a little chat. Let's bond, like men." The black magician girl beside him chuckled and raised her staff as if she approved. Natsu and Happy exchanged a look and immediately smelled a trap. Buddies don't need words to understand when something's off. They both started to slip away. Just as they made a move, Chess slammed a card face up. A sharp click, a buzz, and 3 streams of golden light, like swords, shot down from the ceiling and pinned Natsu and Happy in place. Saint Light Protectives, a binding magic card with sealing power comparable to S-Class sealing magic. Chapter 12. We are fairy tale wizards. Chess, you bastard! Didn't you say you were out of magic power? Natsu, pinned beneath the light sword, looked stunned. "So, you still have some left, Natsu." Chess smiled calmly, rocking the teacup in his hand. "Chess, Natsu told me to secretly scratch the coffee table, so if you want to settle accounts, find him. I'm innocent." Happy blinked, terrified, and sold Natsu out without hesitation. "Bastard Happy, are we still brothers?" Natsu roared. "Don't worry, neither of you can get away." Chess stepped forward with a wicked grin, walking side by side with Black Magician Girl, closing the distance to the two. The aura emanating from them sent Natsu and Happy into a panic. Frozen in place, they turned to Lucy with desperate, pleading eyes. "Lucy, save me." "Aha! Ahaha! Well then, I won't disturb Mr. Chess." With that, Lucy bolted, not even glancing back. "Hey, Lucy, don't leave us. We are magicians of fairy tale." Chess raised his sandbag-sized fist slowly. Natsu and Happy fell into utter despair, shaking their heads and struggling uselessly. Lucy ran out of Chess's house and onto the stone bridge over the city river. Two loud cracks sounded above her. Two blazing meteors streaked across the night sky and vanished over the horizon with a soft chime. Faintly, Natsu's indignant roar still echoed in her ears. "Bastard Chess, I'll be back!" "I, Natsu, happy, and Mr. Kawai. Chess's feelings are really good." Lucy smiled, let out a soft sigh, and quickened her pace. She wanted to get back and add new tags to Chess in her fanfiction, Chunibyo Man and Big Pervert. Back inside, Chess, having handled Natsu and Happy, collapsed into the sofa and looked up. Through the silhouette-shaped holes in the ceiling, where a person and a cat were cut into the plaster, the night sky glittered above. I miscalculated. I subconsciously thought this was the guild. Causing trouble in the guild was one thing. After all, Guildmaster Makarov's retirement fund could cover it. Damaging his own house, however, meant he had to pay out of his own pocket to hire builders. Natsu and Happy are still adorable after a year, and they've gotten a lot stronger, he mused. Black Magician Girl, who lived in the card, wasn't worried at all. She'd enjoyed the fight. Her anger at being killed instantly by Ignia the Flame God Dragon had cooled considerably. From Chess, she learned that the tyrannical fire dragon and Natsu shared a father and were, in name at least, brothers. That said, there's still a bigger gap than I expected. After a day of skirmishes, Chess had a good idea of Natsu's current strength and that of most people in the guild. Fighting enemies was combat, and fighting each other was combat too. The duelist soul's card-bursting mechanism didn't care about the opponent, only the intensity of the battle. When he first joined Fairy Tail, Chess had used guild members to build his starting cards. He'd been battered black and blue by monsters like Urza and Laxus back then, but over time he caught up and became S-Class. That was one reason he went on a 10-year mission a year ago to finish plundering the cabbages in the guild. It's because Master's rate of getting stronger is too fast. Black Magician Girl's expression hardened. The corners of her mouth tilted up as she looked purposefully at Chess. Having crossed the Kinna continent with him, she knew exactly how many battles he'd fought to reach his current level. "Not me," she said, chest puffing out a little. "Us." He reached for the heavy deck of cards. A faint screen flickered in his mind, showing the card monsters that watched him silently. Hey, that's right. Black Magician Girl wasn't modest at all. She thumped her chest and admitted it proudly. The next morning, warm sunlight chased the darkness away. The town's animals began their day, and the streets hummed with life. Chess had slept well. After calling builders to fix his house, he strolled along the river toward the guild. "Bastard Chess, why are you back? If you have nothing better to do, go take requests," a neighbor called. "I beg you, buy a seaside house and live there. My accident insurance that's been stopped for a year will have to be renewed if you stay." "Don't come so close. My house was just renovated." The neighbors clustered at their windows and doors, scolding him in fearful tones. They were still wary after the last time Chess had blown half the place up. They expected his next appearance to mean their homes would crumble. To achieve the title of #1 destroyer in Fairy Tail, where everyone had demolition skills, had left a mark. "Ha! How touching! I didn't expect everyone to be this welcoming after more than a year," Chess said, waving at them with exaggerated cheer. "Welcoming my foot," the neighbors muttered in unison and shut their doors. The more cautious ones drew their curtains. Chess shook his head and kept walking. Amid the residents' enthusiastic greetings, he arrived at Fairy Tail. Although it was early, the guild was already bustling. Some members were passed out drunk at the bar, mugs still clutched in limp hands. Others prowled the job board. A few flirted with girls, arms slung around shoulders. In short, the guild was its usual chaotic self. "Chess, I didn't expect you so early," came a gentle voice. Mira appeared from the bar, wearing a black dress and walking briskly toward him. "Yo." "Morning, Mira." "Good morning." Mira offered a quick nod, but her pretty face tightened with worry. "Chess, if you can avoid it, don't stay in the guild for now." "Why?" "The guild master. He seems like he wants to kill you." "Chess!" Before Mira could finish, a thunderous roar cut through the guild as a 4 to 5 meter tall black figure leapt down from the second floor. Boom! The impact shook the whole building and sent dust billowing. Drunk Kana stirred awake. Nabu, pausing at the job board, froze. Loki, cradled in a woman's arms, looked up. As the dust cleared, the oversized figure of Makarov stood revealed, furious. Chess, do you have anything to say for destroying half the town in the kingdom of Orgath on the Kiltina continent? Makarov thundered, slamming a stack of papers onto the floor. He'd thought the worst he'd have to deal with was an apology for a failed 10-year mission, but this went far beyond that. Chess had delivered a catastrophe. He'd arrived yesterday afternoon, and the complaint and grievance letters were already flooding in this morning. Makarov glared down at Ches, voice shaking with controlled rage. Explain yourself. Chapter 13. Maka's Super Reliable Love. Guildmaster, didn't you promise yesterday you'd help me clean up the mess? Facing a livid Makarov, Chess's swagger wavered, and he mumbled under his breath. You already mucked up the town so bad it was almost, how else do you expect this old man to help you clean it up? Hearing that made Makarov boil over. For a moment, his nostrils flared as if they could spew dragon fire. The one who destroyed the town was that fire dragon. I was out being a good, law-abiding citizen. All right, fine. It was me. Chess scratched his head apologetically. His voice grew low as he explained, but to finish that 10-year quest, the whole town had to be destroyed. It was unavoidable. A 10-year quest, an assignment no one had ever completed in a decade, was not something ordinary. Its danger and scale dwarfed everyday tasks, and this particular version had an extra, terrible condition. The town itself had to be leveled. During the course of that destruction, whether by misfortune or not, Chess had accidentally disturbed Ignia, who had been sealed away. Everything else had followed from there. Giant Makarov stared down at Chess with eyes wide as saucers. Slowly, the terrifying aura that had filled the guild faded. His enormous, booming presence shrank back into the shape of the little old man everyone knew. As head of Fairy Tale, Makarov knew Chess well. The kid loved to cause trouble, sure, but he wasn't the kind to act without any sense of proportion or responsibility. So instead of grilling him for details, Makarov chose to believe him, at least for now. This is still too much, Makarov said, worry creasing his face as he picked up a several-centimeter-thick complaint document from the floor and dusted it off. 2 kingdoms are involved. The council's going to make a mess of this. Guildmaster, Ches patted his chest confidently. If the council has any objections, just let me go talk to them directly. Makarov shot him a sharp look and tucked the complaint away, hands clasped behind his back. When he turned, the sharpness in his eyes was unmistakable. Don't worry, I'm not the kind of old man who sends his children out to take the fall. With me here, let's see which of the council's dogs dares to step to my guild, Makarov declared, fury simmering under his voice. To the outside world, he barked and scolded without mercy. Inwardly, he would move heaven and earth to protect his people. Chess looked at the small figure in the 10 wizard saint's cloak and after a beat broke into a lazy smile. As expected, you're super reliable, guild master. Reliable, my foot. Makarov snapped, then softened with another shake of the head. If you're bored, find proper quests and earn some money. Looking at you is irritating. Understood, Chess nodded with mock solemnity. Speaking of quests, Mira chimed in at the perfect moment, grabbing Chess and steering him toward the quest board. Chess, there's a designated quest that fits you today. Makarov climbed the stairs to the 2nd floor, still muttering, and the tense atmosphere finally melted as his back disappeared around the corner. The guild erupted. Chess, did you really level half the town? That's awesome. Now the Kiltina continent across the sea knows about Fairy Tale. What a man, our guild's destruction king. They swarmed him, excitement on every face. On the 2nd floor, however, Makarov squatted in the corner, rubbing his temples and wincing. You people are idiots, Kana muttered, rolling her eyes. Then, in a decidedly different mode from everyone else, she picked up a barrel and started drinking again. Her reasons for joining Fairy Tale? Simple. Where her father went, she went. At the board, Chess used a practiced, intimidating glare to clear away the crowd and turned to Mira. Which quest did you mean? Mira smiled and pulled a quest slip from the collar of her outfit. Chess took it, still warm from her hand, and read it aloud. Quest. Having learned Mr. Chess has returned to Fiora. Magic Weekly invites Miss Black Magician Girl to be the cover star of its next issue. Reward, 200,000. 200,000, Jay? That's a lot, Chess breathed. In Fiore, that sum was the same as a mid-danger subjugation, like Macau fighting off a snow ape. Mira nodded. Black magician girl's always been hot on the most anticipated returning female magician lists. She idly extended a pale, perfect finger and smiled. This morning, fans even sent letters to the guild. Mira herself rarely took these cover girl gigs, only occasionally for extra money and new clothes, but she knew when something mattered. Hearing her mention rankings, Chess's expression shifted. What about the Destruction King ranking? Is my name still up there? Mira leaned her chin on her hand, considering. Right now, it's basically Natsu and Gray who hold that title. Damn, Chess clenched his fists. That's not a glorious list to be absent from. Mira's face took on a feigned gravity, a few cartoonish worry lines appearing on her brow. Then she forced a polite smile. I can't let that stand. I have to take back what was once mine. Chess made up his mind and held the slip. As for this job, I'll ask Black Magician Girl myself. He reached into the void, plucked a card, and summoned her. A burst of glittering magic flashed, and Black Magician Girl appeared, wand in hand, striking a cute pose as she shimmered into being. Mira, long time no see, she crowed the moment she spotted Mira, bounding over like a delighted puppy and rubbing against her. Mira hugged her back just as warmly. I haven't seen you in over a year. You've grown so much. Their easy, affectionate reunion made it clear they were close. Mira had always treated Black Magician Girl almost like a younger sister, perhaps because of Lasana's painful past and the tender way she protected girls of a similar age. When their embrace ended, Chess waved the quest slip in front of Black Magician Girl. Magic Weekly wants you for the cover. What do you think? Want to accept? The Black Magician Girl stepped closer to Chess, her wide eyes skimming the unfolded request. She hesitated a moment, then turned to Mira, standing beside her. This looks great, Mira. Will you come with me? I want to take some nice photos together. Aside from her own charms, Black Magician Girl's popularity as a model for Magic Weekly owed a lot to Mira. Her senior had introduced her. She'd always wanted to appear in the magazine with the gentle Mira, but it had been delayed for one reason or another. Then Chess had accepted a 10-year mission and left the guild with his deck, and the little wish was put on hold. Now that the opportunity had come, she wasn't about to miss it. Huh? Mira tilted her head, delicate brows knitting with concern. But the guild has been really busy since Chess came back. I haven't even had time to get a request from Magic Weekly. What does that matter? The guild has master. Nothing will go wrong. Black Magician Girl took the request from Chess's hand, and if Magic Weekly refuses, then I won't go either. It's because Chess is back that everything's more hectic. Mira shot Chess an accusing look. She actually wanted to go on the mission and do the photo shoot with Black Magician Girl, but with the trouble of cleaning up after whatever Chess had wrecked in the city, plus old cases left unresolved while he was gone, she needed to prepare everything carefully and deal with the occasional complaint letters sent to the guild. Meeting Mira's eyes, Chess felt a pang of guilt and looked away, pretending not to hear. Black Magician Girl went momentarily speechless, her bright expression dimming. Of course people could make excuses, but when the culprit himself used them, she felt helpless. If we squeeze it in, it's not impossible. Seeing Black Magician Girl pout as if on the verge of tears, Mira's heart softened. She hurried over and took her hand. Really? Black Magician Girl brightened instantly. Yes, Mira nodded firmly. Her sister's happiness came first. Worst case, she'd work late when they returned. Chess read Mira's thoughts at a glance, sighed, and stepped between the two girls. Administrative work, in his view, was worse than facing Ignia, but as a man and the culprit, he couldn't exactly refuse. He ran his hands through his short hair, trying for a cool look, and declared confidently, Mira, don't worry, I'll handle the guild work while you're gone. Mira studied him up and down, unimpressed. I don't feel comfortable with that. Her expression was rock solid. The chance Chess would competently handle the tedious paperwork was about as likely as Natsu never getting motion sickness. 0. Chess, ready to step up, felt his knees go weak. Hey, this was my chance to shine! A rough, powerful shout split the air as Elfman stomped over in his wooden clogs, flexing and radiating testosterone. Mira, leave the work to me. In a way, Elfman, you're no different from Chess, Mira said softly. Elfman's face fell, and he planted his hands on the floor to match chess. I think I heard two beautiful, cute girls are in trouble. Then the lion star spirit, Loki, materialized in a flash and coolly pushed up the glasses on his nose. How could such tedious clerical work be left to two idiots? Mira, I'll take care of it. He added in an unmistakably flirtatious tone. Just promise to go on a date with me and Black Magician Girl later. If Lucy had been there, she would have screamed that Loki was taking advantage. Mira was not Lucy, though, and as she opened her mouth to refuse politely, something slammed against the outer door with a crash. A kicked door panel flew through the air in a perfect arc and struck Loki squarely on the forehead. He spat a mouthful of old blood, was knocked back several meters, and tumbled into the bar. "Is that bastard Chess here?" Natsu stormed into the guild, swaggering aggressively. Behind him, Happy peered out with a bird's nest on his head. They'd been sent flying the night before, and had ended up sleeping out in the forest. "Damn it, you ambushed me in front of two pretty girls, Natsu. You're ready, right?" Loki scrambled to his feet the instant he recognized Natsu and slapped the ring on his hand. A magic circle glowed and a beam of golden light shot toward Natsu. Quick as ever, Natsu swung his arm and diverted the attack. Boom! The beam slammed into a wine barrel Kana was holding above her head. The barrel shattered with a clang, wine dousing Kana. "Natsu!" Kana didn't hold back. She grabbed a nearby stool and hurled it. Natsu countered with a fire dragon's iron fist, shattering the stool into splinters. Wood fragments rained across the hall, and the guild erupted. Members jumped up, slammed tables, and a brawl broke out. The ruckus built until Makarov himself could take no more. He stormed downstairs from the second floor and began dressing them down, one by one, gradually restoring order. Once things had calmed, Mira explained the whole story to him. Makarov listened, then climbed onto the broken bar and surveyed the battered faces until his gaze landed on Loki's swollen forehead. "Loki," he said, "while Mira and Black Magician Girl are out on the request, you'll take over the work." Black Magician Girl might be Chess's card monster, but in Makarov's eyes, she was like family. He was happy to grant her small wish. Loki's face filled with protest. He opened his mouth, but Makarov's expression shifted into a mischievous grin. "Didn't your condition require them to go on a date with you? They're going to Magic Weekly for a photo shoot and don't have time, so Mira's brother and Black Magician Girl's master will take their place." Loki's eyes went wide with disbelief. "What? Go on a date with those two guys, Chess and Elfman?" Before he could argue, two stiff, muscular arms snatched him from either side and locked him in place. Elfman, guided by brotherly duty, had no qualms. Chess, however, leaned in close and blew warm breath into Loki's ear. "All right, let's start our date, Loki-san." "What kind of international joke is this? Who in their right mind would want to date a monster like you?" Loki shrieked, goosebumps rising all over him. He flailed and tore himself free, then scrambled away as fast as he could, desperate to return to the Star Spirit world. "Don't forget your promise, Loki-san," Chess called after him, grinning. Loki ran even faster. The guild, which had been tense moments before, now hummed with laughter and chatter. The little interlude with the Magic Weekly request came to an end. Chapter 15. Because We Are Family, 2 in 1. Under Black Magician Girl's expectant gaze, Mirajane tapped a small magic communicator and contacted the print editor at Magic Weekly. "I didn't hear wrong, did I, Miss Mirajane? You mean Black Magician Girl wants to do a photo shoot with you, and you agreed?" An excited voice crackled through. "Yes. Is that possible?" Mirajane asked with a gentle smile. "Of course. A playful, cute magic girl paired with a sultry, elegant white-haired beauty. Just thinking about that combo gets my blood boiling," the editor gushed. "Can you come to the port city Harugion today? The shoot is on Ermo Relic Island, off the Fiore coast. We'll send a special magic boat." Mirajane's smile widened. "Since it's so special, shouldn't the fee be raised a bit?" "Of course," the editor replied immediately. "How about 500,000 J?" There was a stunned silence on the other end. In Magic Weekly's office in the capital, an editor with a spiky cowlick went pale. "You call that a little?" he thought, but he kept his voice professional. "We'll see what we can do. Also, I think Black Magician Girl has been approached by other weeklies too." Mirajane winked at Black Magician Girl, signaling her not to say anything. Although she was usually gentle and composed in the guild, she had a calculating streak. If not for certain events long ago, she might be even more ruthless than Natsu or Gray. I'll put in a request with the company. Don't worry about those little-time weeklies. The editor forced a smile and promised. The pairing was explosive and perfectly suited to a cover shoot. The weekly stood to gain a lot. Mirajane's calm politicking worked exactly as she expected. Before long, she'd pushed the offer up. Mira is amazing. Not only did you get them to adjust the shoot concept, you managed to raise the fee to 700,000 J. Black Magician Girl looked at Mirajane with awe, her big eyes sparkling. She'd spent her life training magic and had never had to haggle with publishers. Hey, it was nothing, Mirajane said, beaming. She reached out and affectionately stroked Black Magician Girl's head. A little extra pay means more pretty clothes, she teased. It must be tough following Chess around. You should treat yourself. Her bargaining wasn't about profit for herself. Mirajane had done it all for Black Magician Girl. Chess, caught innocently in the middle, stepped forward and protested indignantly. Hey, are you accusing me of being a villain capitalist? He objected. Mirajane tilted her head and gave a playful, sly smile. This woman really had a sharp edge sometimes. When Loki returned in a rush, Mirajane quickly filled him in on the handover and confirmed the details with Magic Weekly. Then, without further ado, she packed and left the guild with Black Magician Girl, heading for Magnolia Station to take the steam train to Harugion. Chess, Elfman, you can handle the date. Make sure you two get along with Loki, she called back over her shoulder with a cheerful grin. Her parting words nearly broke Elfman on the spot. He went from sunny to despondent in a heartbeat and slumped into a corner of the guild, wiping his eyes as if deeply wronged. Loki, buried under paperwork, didn't take it to heart. Thick-skinned as he was, he'd already been pulled over by Kana to sit at the drinking table. Kana hoisted a barrel and chugged, then wiped the rim with a flourish. Chess, how did you manage to maintain card magic over such a long distance? She asked, eyes glinting with curiosity. As a card magician herself, her deck full of elemental attack cards and an ability to briefly summon creatures, she envied the idea of sustaining cards across towns. If Chess had training techniques, she might finally have a shot at this year's S-Class Mage exam. It had obsessed her for years, and was why she'd joined Fairy Tail in the first place. Chess drained his drink and set the glass down. Our magics are fundamentally different. My methods won't help you, he said quietly. Please, Kana pleaded, slamming her empty barrel down. I'll do anything to get stronger. Chess watched her for a moment and then sighed. It's been over a year and you're still hung up on S-Class, he muttered. Kana's bravado faltered. She lowered her voice and admitted, if I don't make S-Class, I can't stay in the guild. With less than half a year until the next S-Class exam, she'd already decided, fail again, and she'd leave. Give up on the fantasy of reuniting with Guildarts. Chess pointed across the room at Macau, chatting with the old smoker Wakaba. Look at Macau. He's not exactly powerful, but he gets by fine. I know you don't understand, Kana said with a sigh, shaking her head. Then she brightened a little. Isn't it because of a family member? Chess arched a brow, smiled, and leaned in. Like a certain man in the guild who might be your long-lost father? How did you know? Kana gasped, stunned. She stomped a foot and pressed her forehead into Chess's face, convinced her secret of being Guildart's daughter was safe. Chess pushed her back gently, and with a flick of light formed a card between his fingers. Don't forget, I'm a card magician who's good at reading things, he said with a wink. Kana, predictably, bought it. She sat back down, crestfallen, and then pleaded, Can you keep this secret? Chess tossed the card across the table toward her. Kana picked it up and blinked at the design, a magic book on the face, the Magic Card Book of Secret Arts. I got it by accident on the Kiltina continent. It can slightly raise a magician's magic limit, he explained. Normally, his transmigration cheat deck couldn't be used by others. But Kana's specialty was cards. She could trap someone in a card space separate from reality, so activating a magic card wouldn't be hard for her. The only condition was Chess's permission. Kana's eyes widened at the card's effect. It increases my magic limit? She exclaimed. How can I possibly? Dream on, Chess said, smirking. I'm just lending it for a few days. She didn't stall. Kana accepted the card with her usual straightforwardness, clutching it to her chest. "Why are you helping me?" she asked softly. Chess tilted his head, lifted his barrel, and knocked back the last of his drink. He laughed and said, "Because we're family." Kana froze, then flushed, and a brilliant smile lit her face. "I can't punish you. I'll buy you drinks another day until you pass out." "Ha ha! Paid by the council, I hope?" Chess joked. "Who knows?" Kana answered, pouting playfully. After a moment, she grew serious. "Thank you." "Save the thanks until after you make S-Class," Chess replied. Then, mischief flitting into his eyes, he added, "You said you'd do anything to get stronger, right?" Kana crossed her arms, suddenly on edge. "What do you want?" "Fight me when you're stronger," Chess said flatly. Kana blinked in disbelief. "Huh?" "I'm looking forward to a duel between card magicians," Chess repeated earnestly. The stronger Kana became, the more uncertain Chess felt about his cards in a match. He wanted to see how far her power would go. Kana flushed, embarrassed and flustered. "Go to hell!" she snapped, though not entirely seriously. Their awkwardness was cut off by the ruckus at the request board. The road engine team, Levy, Jet, and Troy, were arguing in full. Apparently, Jet and Troy were fighting over who would guard Levy's luggage. In the midst of the commotion, Natsu, who had been sprawled in front of the board, sat up and barked at them. The argument escalated into a scuffle. Natsu piled on top of the two and roared with delight, looking triumphant as ever. A request form knocked loose by the scuffle floated down and landed right on Natsu's head. He snatched the form, scanned it, and his eyes lit up. "Hey, Happy! Get a load of this." Happy peeked over his shoulder. "Nani, destroying a novel pays 200,000 J? That's not it, Happy. Duke Everell, owner of this novel, is recruiting blonde maids," Natsu said, pointing to the fine print. Happy's ears perked up. "But Black Magician Girl already left with Mira to Harujian." "You forgot. There's another blonde in the guild," Natsu grinned. "You mean," Happy guessed. "Exactly." The two shared a conspiratorial snicker and were gone in an instant. "Let's go, Happy." "Aye." Kana watched them depart and sighed. "Someone's going to get conned." Chess only shrugged with a smile. He hadn't expected Natsu, Happy, and Lucy's first team request to be snatched up in such a ridiculous way, and he wasn't inclined to meddle with events he'd already seen. He stood and headed toward the stairs up to the second floor. "Bored. I'll go find an S-Class request to play with," he announced. "That's infuriating," Kana muttered under her breath. Her earlier warmth at Chess's "we're family" remark had evaporated. When his back disappeared around the stairwell, she tucked the magic card book of secret arts safely away, stood, and left the guild with renewed resolve. She wanted to get stronger, and then she would thoroughly stomp Chess's annoying face. Deep down, she probably didn't realize how much that single goal, becoming an S-Class mage, had begun to shape every choice she made. Chapter 16. S-Rank Commission. Defeat the pirates. Whoosh. The train eased to a stop at the station, and a cloud of steam billowed from the engine room at the front. Passengers with all kinds of luggage poured out, filling the platform with noise and movement. Chess stepped onto the medieval-style street, his backpack slung over one shoulder, taking in the new city with a curious eye. He had never been here before. This was Astrobia, a port city of the Fiora Kingdom near Harujian, hemmed in by mountains on two sides and the sea on the other. Following Makarov's suggestion, Ches, who had only intended a leisurely stroll, had chosen an S-Class request of medium difficulty, and the destination for that request was Astrobia. He found an empty public bench, sat down, and pulled the request form from his chest. A bright red S was stamped across the top. S-Class request. Subdue the pirates rampaging in the open sea. Description. In recent months, a group of pirates has been terrorizing the Astrobia sea lanes, attacking passing ships and causing massive losses. Over 100 people have been slain by these pirates. Capture this extremely brutal group alive. Reward, 9.9 million J. Requester, Marshal Whitedew. Location, Astrobia South Coast, abandoned lighthouse. Special note, pirates must be captured alive. Extremely dangerous, except with caution. According to the Guildmaster, every magician who took this request lost contact mysteriously, Chess muttered. None of them ever returned, and not even a body was found. That's why it was upgraded to S-Class. He frowned. It's one thing to be attacked at sea, but it's strange that every last one of them vanished without a trace. Pirates weren't like bandits stuck in a town or brigands holed up in a fixed mountain lair. Their domain was the wide, open ocean. How could they consistently find and eliminate specific magicians who accepted the job? It couldn't be some sort of observation magic. Ahem. Chess cleared his throat and chased the thought away. If he wanted answers, he would have to talk to the requester in person. The abandoned lighthouse wasn't hard to find. With a few casual questions to locals, Chess learned it sat on the south coast. Follow the town's main granite road, cut through a patch of tropical scrub, and you'd reach the cliff. From the overgrown waste, the lighthouse rose on the cliff with mottled walls. The white paint had almost flaked away. Salt and wind had weathered it into uneven gray. A rusty iron ladder spoke of former use, and the sea breeze whistled through the iron fence at its base, making a thin, forlorn sound. It really is abandoned, Chess said to himself. He pushed open the slightly ajar iron door and stepped inside. Narrow windows slanted strips of sunlight across cracked tiles where weeds had pushed through. In one beam of light, beside a crumbling washroom, a thin man sat at a plain wooden table, sipping tea. "Hello, are you Mr. Marshall White?" Chess called. At the sound, the man set down his cup, studied Chess from a few meters away, and then asked with a puzzled tilt, "Young man, are you looking for me?" "I'm a magician from Fairy Tale. Did you post the request?" Chess said, lifting his sleeve to show the Fairy Tale emblem branded on his right arm and pulling the form from his pocket. The man's blank expression snapped into life. He hurried over, grabbed Chess's hand, and his voice trembled with relief. Yes, it's you! I didn't expect Fairy Tale." Chess gently freed his hand from the man's grip. Up close, the requester looked to be in his 30s, gaunt in a simple shirt, a knife scar tracing half his right cheek. He blinked, embarrassed. "Sorry, I lost my composure." "Marshal Whiteado," the man said, pouring Chess a cup of hot tea. "Please, help me catch those damned pirates." Chess accepted the cup. The tea was bitter and astringent, nothing like Mira's, but he set it down after a cautious sip and got straight to business. "I've read the request. Tell me everything you know about the pirates." "Young brother, I can never forget them," Marshall said, and his pleasant demeanor hardened into raw anger. He clenched his jaw, and the scar along his cheek looked more severe. "Their flag is a demon's claw. The captain, he has a fierce face, wears a black top hat and a necklace of skulls. I saw him use magic that shot flames." His hand tightened on his cup until his knuckles whitened. "Any other details? The ship's appearance, their clothes, other magic?" Chess asked, watching him. Marshall swallowed, anger pooling with grief. "The captain and crew mostly wore dark clothes. That's all I ever saw clearly. As for the other magics, I only saw the captain's fire magic." Chess nodded, noting it mentally. Then, studying the man across from him, he asked the question that mattered most. "Why did you post this request yourself? Shouldn't the Maritime Guard or the Guild Alliance handle pirates?" Marshall's face distorted. He slammed his fist into the table. Veins stood out in his temples. Those beasts, killed my wife and daughter. I want to tear them to pieces with my own hands, scatter them, throw them to the sea." He grabbed Chess's sleeve, and his voice broke into a painful plea. Please help me. You're from Fairy Tale. This is my last hope." Chess didn't pull away as the man trembled. He rested a hand on Marshall's shoulder, steady and calm. "Don't worry, Fairy Tale isn't like those useless guilds." Marshall collapsed into tears and clutched Chess's hand. Thank you. Chess waited until Marshall had calmed, then asked the last practical question. "How do I find the pirates? Any usual hunting grounds?" "They appear near the trade routes," Marshall said, wiping his face. "The previous magicians tried by boarding merchant ships out of Astrobia. They never came back." Chess's brows knit for a moment, then cleared. "All right, we'll do the same. I'll board a merchant from Astrobia and patrol the routes. Thank you, Mr. Marshall." Marshall bowed his head, the promise anchoring his hope for the first time in weeks. Outside, the wind off the sea kept up its lonely song, and Chess watched the waves thinking through his plan. Capturing those pirates alive would be dangerous, maybe deadly. But he had a job to do. Chapter 17. It's better not to mention the small broken guild. At Arusubaru's port, a modest merchant ship was moored along the quay. Dock workers moved in orderly fashion, loading crates and barrels onto the vessel and stacking them neatly on the roomy deck. In their spare moments, they would glance toward the loading platform where Chess, who had left the abandoned lighthouse, stood talking with a broad-shouldered, bearded man. The man introduced himself as Lambert, the ship's captain, preparing to carry Arusubaru's local goods across the continent. "So you're the magician Marshall recommended," Lambert said, holding the letter of introduction and studying Chess for a moment. "We're happy to have a legitimate guild magician aboard, but, to be honest, the seas aren't peaceful. Pirates have been a real problem. If this trip didn't promise a decent profit, we wouldn't risk it. So if anything happens, we can't promise your safety." Lambert looked every bit the profit-minded sea merchant, but he spoke plainly. Chess sized him up and, outwardly casual, waved a hand. "Don't worry. If pirates show up, I'll make sure it's their safety that's in doubt." That confidence seemed to satisfy Lambert. "We'll cast off in about half an hour. Take care of your things meanwhile." As a practical captain, Lambert had another reason to welcome Chess. Word had spread in Arusubaru about Marshall's request. Anyone willing to answer it was likely competent. Having a capable magician aboard was like free extra protection. They shook hands. Lambert suddenly asked, "Oh, by the way, we've also contracted magicians from Black Griffin for this voyage. Are you familiar with that guild?" Chess didn't mention Fairy Tale. "Black Griffin?" He frowned. Earlier, while returning to his guild on the rock giant's shoulder, some fool from Black Griffin had blocked his path. Why did this little Black Griffin guild show up everywhere? "I've heard of them, but I don't know them well. That's a shame. They're pretty famous around here." "Arusubaru's a bit out of the loop," Chess muttered. "Excuse me? Nothing." He gave a small smile. The Black Griffin's so-called top mage probably couldn't beat Macau. Either Arusubaru was really remote, or Fairy Tale had simply grown that powerful. Suddenly, the sound of boots echoed nearby. "Ah, they're back," Lambert said. 3 magicians in matching suspenders and trousers walked up, 2 young men and a woman, the same composition as Shadow Gear, Chess noted with a jolt of déjà vu. One of the men carried bags. The woman's hands were empty. Chess suppressed a grimace. The whole look felt like a shadow of an old acquaintance. "Mr. Lambert, how's the loading going? Ready to sail?" the woman asked. She had short red hair, was pretty in a practical way, and was notably well built. "Almost ready," Lambert replied with a smile. "And this is?" She glanced over and noticed Chess. "He's also a magician, joining us for this run. You don't trust us, Black Griffin, so you hire outsiders?" The bag-carrying man snapped, clearly annoyed. Lambert hurried to explain. "Not at all. Mr. Chess was recommended by a friend." "Chess? That name rings a bell," the woman said, studying him. When she couldn't place him, she asked directly, "Which guild are you with?" Lambert's ears pricked. He would like to know. A-list S-class magicians tended to be famous, though Chess had faded a bit from public view after a long absence and newer stars had risen. Chess hesitated and then shrugged. "It's just a small, run-down guild. No need to mention it." He wasn't hiding to be modest. He was playing his cards. If he announced himself now, there'd be no dramatic moment later. Besides, Chess had a hunch this voyage would meet pirates. With the 3 Black Griffin mages taking the lead, he could hang back, watch, and gather information. "It's not easy for small guilds," the red-haired woman said, reading him. She stepped forward, patted his shoulder, and smiled warmly. "Don't worry. We'll protect you if anything happens." Thanks," Chess replied, awkwardly grateful. The 2 young men across from him scoffed. To them, his hesitant manner marked him as guildless and weak. "No problem," one of them boasted. "With our invincible center part squad around, you're safe." Chess forced a laugh and scratched his head. After the usual back and forth, they'd at least made introductions. Lambert called for final preparations, and they all boarded together. "By the way, Mr. Lambert, this ship's sturdy enough, right?" Chess asked as they prepared to leave. "Don't worry," Lambert said, patting the hull. "Not even strong winds or big waves will tear it apart." The Black Griffin mages exchanged pitying looks at Chess, afraid of the sea, the lot of them, but Chess simply felt a little anxious. Lambert was a decent captain, and Chess didn't want to be the sort who jinxed the voyage. With a soft hum, the white sails shimmered as a power magic circle flared, and the merchant ship eased away from the docks into the open sea. The city grew distant, swallowed by the horizon and an endless expanse of waves. The first half of the crossing was uneventful. They passed through routes known for pirate activity without incident, and Lambert's tension gradually eased. He even fetched a bottle he'd been saving, preparing a small celebration with Chess and the others for their safe journey. Then an urgent alarm split the air. It was followed by the lookout's panicked shout. "No, no good, pirates! A pirate ship at 5 o'clock closing fast." Chapter 18. Pull the boat over. Above the sea, a scarlet-clawed skull flag snapped in the cold wind. The pirate ship was a grim, matte black. Though only half the size of Lambert's merchantman, huge magic arrays mounted along its sides provided a savage acceleration, making it unnaturally fast. It moved like a black fish through the swells, weaving around the waves. On the pirate deck, a band of oddly dressed cutthroats glared viciously, their blades reflecting a cold, blinding light. Lambert nearly lost his nerve at the sight. The champagne he'd just opened slipped from his hand and frothed across the planks. "Quick, quick, full speed, shake them off," he barked, panic sharpening his voice. He knew the pirate ship was powered entirely by magic and would outpace his hybrid wind demon single-masted trader. Still, in a moment of sheer panic, people always try to avoid risk, even when it's useless. "Yes, Captain," the helmsman answered, shoving the lever to give the engine everything it could. He was about to wheel the rudder when a magician from Black Griffin stepped forward and stopped him. "Hey, don't be the sort who runs from a fight," the man called. "Isn't this exactly why you hired Black Griffin?" To the crew's astonishment, the show-off shouted, "What's there to fear from mere pirates? Bring the ship closer." Was he trying to boost morale? Chess, sitting under a sun umbrella, calmly popped a pastry into his mouth. The arrogant magician's bravado did make Chess's impression of him improve, if only a little. Sometimes a loud, brazen speech could rally frightened people, especially in a pirate boarding. But this was a merchantman full of ordinary sailors with no stomach for battle. "What are you talking about? You want us to go head-to-head with those pirates?" Lambert exploded. He staggered over, grabbed the magician by the collar. His beer belly jiggled with the motion. He only wanted to run. Compared to the pale crew cowering in corners, he was hardly the worst, but he was panicking now. "Mr. Lambert, please calm down. Leave the fighting to us. Hide in your cabin," said Ina, a red-haired magician who stepped forward. She pointed fair finger extended toward the approaching pirate ship. In only a few dozen seconds, the raiders had closed on their stern, only a few hundred meters away. "It's over! It's over!" Lambert went limp and collapsed onto the deck, despair written across his fat, pale face. Ina wasted no time. "Those who can still move, get everyone below. We'll protect you," she called, directing the crew. Her peripheral vision fell on Chess, nonchalantly eating pastries. Why so calm? Was he frozen with fear? Or not afraid at all? There was no time to wonder. Ina turned to her teammates with a businesslike look. "Dasha Nu, Bouquet Laiwan, get ready. We can't let them board this ship." Understood. They were from the same squad. Their tacit coordination showed. With a single look, they fell into formation and moved toward the stern in a one-front, two-back alignment. They intended to intercept the pirates and protect the vessel and its cargo. No sooner had they taken their positions than machinery on the pirate ship's cannon platform whirred. A dark purple magic array flared, and a small muzzle began to gather energy, stirring the sea into a violent wind. A compact magic cannon had been aimed straight at the merchant ship's magic sail. "Dasha Nu, I'll boost you. Block that shot," Ina ordered. "Bukilaiwan, prepare to take out their captain." Ina knew if the magic sail was destroyed, the merchant ship would be helpless. She spread her hands toward Dasha Nu. "Attach! Armor strength!" Two shimmering arrays formed and draped a thick layer of light over Dasha Nu. Chess, watching, raised an eyebrow. An auxiliary magician, then. Support magic was rarer and valuable, but Ina's power was limited. The buff it granted was modest. Chess sighed and glanced at Dasha Nu. The man's short-sleeved shirt and overalls had already split open against his bulging muscles. He looked to be a close combat brawler who relied on raw physical magic. Chess wondered internally why Dasha Nu still wore overalls in a fight. Wouldn't a smart fighter shed loose clothing? Even fools like Natsu and Gray knew to remove such things before a scrap, he thought with mild amusement. Bouquet Laiwan unclipped an iron case from his back and quickly set up a magic sniper rifle. He keyed the array on its scope, breath steady, and fine-tuned his aim until the pirate captain in the black top hat was locked in his sights. Take the king, and you unmake the bandit. If they could drop the captain, the rest might scatter. Their mix of support, close combat, and long-range precision explained the squad's confidence. They had skill, though not an overwhelming amount. Chess shrugged inwardly, went back to his pastries, and watched. The pirate captain's appearance matched Marshall's description exactly. This group was clearly the target of Chess's current commission. Even A and S-class magicians from other guilds had found uncertain fates against these pirates. How could 3 magicians from a broken little guild stand a chance? The pirate cannon roared. A concentrated beam sliced from its muzzle and smashed toward the merchant ship like a beast's howl. "A mere cannon. Watch me shatter it," Dashanu roared. Enhanced by Ina's limited buff, he leapt high and braced to intercept the blast. He raised a spinning fist array and slammed it down into the oncoming laser as if smashing a mountain. Boom! The explosion threw up smoke and splinters. When it cleared, Dashanu lay sprawled against an overturned mast, blood on his lips, badly wounded and unable to move. With their power support gone, the merchant ship lost speed and drifted to a stop on the open sea. Chapter 19. He is actually a wizard from Fairy Tale. Dashanu, Ina froze in shock. "You damned pirate bastard. Die!" Bouquet Lywin had the pirate captain squarely in his sights and squeezed the trigger. The bullet, charged with magic power, streaked forward in an instant. Just as it was about to pierce the scarred captain's head, a warped green shimmer appeared in the space in front of him. The bullet vanished into that distorted pocket of air, disappearing as if swallowed by nothingness. Chez's pupils narrowed. He set down his pastry and stared at the pirate captain in disbelief. That magic, he knew enough to recognize it. What on earth was that?" Bouquet Lywin murmured, face drained of color. He was so stunned that the sniper rifle clattered from his hands. "Pathetic tricks," the pirate captain sneered. "With such weak magic, where do you get the nerve to fight us?" He rose slowly, the skulls on his necklace chinking together as if whispering. Reaching the bow of the ship, he lifted a black arm and grinned savagely. "Little ones, let's begin today's hunting carnival." A mad, hair-raising chorus answered him. Magic circles flared across the pirate deck. Ina watched, horror and despair tightening her throat, as pirates standing on levitation magic rose into the air like a swarm of hornets. They cackled, forming a ring and closing on the stalled merchant ship. This was how they took advantage on the high seas. If a guard or a magician couldn't fight in the air, they were just targets to be trampled. Magic glowed in the palms of the pirates, lights of every color cutting into the sunset and locking onto the merchant ship. Panic pressed against Ina's ribs. "Bouquet Lywin, transfer all your magic power to me. We can't let them harm Mr. Lambert or Chess," she shouted. Forcing herself to calm, she forced her way to Bouquet Lywin's side. His eyes were glazed, still unmoored from the sight of the vanished bullet. Ina shook him until he blinked and refocused. He channeled what magic he had left into her. With that boost, Ina slammed her hands to the deck and cried out, "Enhance! Solid barrier!" Pale red glyphs wove into a circle beneath her, and a sheet of light spread outward until it wrapped the merchant ship. The pirates' spells struck at once, fire and lightning, hurricane blasts, hammering the barrier. The explosion sent stacked crates flying. Fruit spilled across the deck as the ship shuddered like a wounded beast. "Hold on, my magic!" Ina gritted through pain as the strain made blood bead at her arms and the corner of her mouth. Still, she refused to let go. In the cabin, she could see Captain Lambert and the crew huddled together, trembling. These people were the reason she'd taken the commission. She would protect them, even if it cost her life. "We are magicians of Black Griffin," Ina shouted to the sky, forcing defiance into her voice. There was no triumphant music, only a brittle crack. The light barrier shattered. It collapsed into 1,000 sparkling motes that scattered into the air. The merchant ship was now exposed. Oddly, the pirates halted their attack and broke into whispers and crude laughter, as if this were their usual theater. "Heh heh, use whatever you want, little girl," called one. "Fairy tale magician, huh? You're even worse than I thought. Pathetic," another mocked. "That one looks good. I claim her." Ina, propped among the rubble and bleeding, raised her head in bewilderment. Fairy tale? She hadn't lied. She was a magician of Black Griffin. Where was this coming from? Under the sun umbrella, Chess set down his cup of red tea and uncrossed his legs. He tapped the table, glancing at the open S-Class commission brief. Marshal White Dove, he murmured. Since arriving in Ozroba City, Chess had kept his identity as a fairy tale magician hidden from the townsfolk, even from Captain Lambert. Only the client who'd requested this commission, Marshal White Dove, knew everything. Chess had wondered why every magician who accepted the job had been ambushed at sea and never returned. If Marshal were behind the pirate ring, it explained a lot. He could have known the whereabouts of the magicians he'd recommended for escort duty. Insisting the pirates be captured alive might have been a way to restrict the magicians and give the pirates the advantage, not necessarily out of grief for his wife and daughter. Why lure magicians out to sea? Why involve space magic like the pirate captain had used? Chess felt he'd stumbled into something far bigger than a simple attack. Hiding in the shadows does give you information, he said softly to himself. This S-Class commission isn't something I can shrug off. Resolute, he pushed aside his thoughts, stretched, and stood. No matter what schemes Marshal might be running, capturing these pirates would unlock the answers, and that was the assignment at hand. All right, stop your nonsense, the pirate captain roared across the water. Leave those magicians to me. You lot take the rest of the cargo, grab whatever's valuable. He took heavy, deliberate steps to the ship's prow. Then he curled his fingers and thrust his hand toward Ina and the others. A volcanic surge of magic power burst forth, a pressure that made the air taste like iron. This was genuine S-Class power. Black, roiling smoke condensed into a demonic claw that streaked across the sea and closed on the frozen trio. Am I gonna die? Ina whispered, voice shaking. I promise to protect Mr. Lambert and Mr. Chess. She breathed, despair softening her words. The demonic claw smashed through the rail and tore along the deck, splintering wood like paper. Tears spilled down Ina's cheeks. I don't want to die like this. I can't. Sorwadokana, a deep, powerful voice cut through the despair. That's not necessarily true. A blinding light erupted before Ina's eyes. Lightning forked, and a tornado of wind and sawdust whipped up, smashing into the demonic claw and shredding it to pieces. A quick play magic card, Mystical Space Typhoon, activated, canceling the enemy magic. The three saved magicians stared dumbfounded. Their wide eyes reflected a tall figure standing amid the storm of light, a person wrapped in a dark red cloak, unmoving against the wind. On the exposed right arm, the graceful emblem of fairy tale glowed. That was Mr. Chess? He was, impossibly, a magician of fairy tale. Chapter 20, Dark Guild, Deep Swamp. Thank you for your hard work, magicians of Black Griffin. You all did very well. The rest is up to me. Even as the lightning hurricane raged, Chess's calm, steady voice carried to Ina and the others without faltering. His dark red cloak swirled around him like a sliver of dawn rising from an abyss, cutting through the despair that clung to them. A moment ago, he'd been wearing a long robe. Now he sported a handsome, sleeveless cloak. Of course, he'd changed in an instant before taking action. Chess had actually planned to wait a little longer to see what the pirates would do. That giant magical claw had been terrifying, but it wouldn't have killed Ina and the others. Everything fit his earlier theory. His client Marshal and this group of pirates were up to something big and needed a lot of magicians. If Ina hadn't appealed to his better nature, guilds help each other, will protect you, Chess probably wouldn't have intervened then. He couldn't just stand by and watch friendly faces break under despair and pain. The next step would be messy, but simple and decisive. Blow those pirates to pieces. Mr. Chess, please be careful, Ina warned. I've seen that black claw magic before. I'm absolutely sure. That pirate captain. Supported by Bouquet Lywin, Ina struggled to sit up and pointed at the pirate captain, who was scowling at Chess's appearance. He's Clooney Blood, the guildmaster of the Dark Guild, Deep Swamp. Dark Guild, Deep Swamp? Chess's expression shifted. He'd heard of that Dark Guild. It wasn't part of the Balam Alliance, formed by the 6 demon generals, Grimoire Heart or Tartaros. It had been an independent dark guild that sprang up in the kingdom of Fiora 2 years ago. Around the time Chess left on his 10-year mission, it had been besieged by a guild alliance led by Blue Pegasus, and then vanished. He didn't expect them to resurface as pirates. I see. Not that the information helps me much, but thanks, Chess said, turning his back on Ina as he waved the remark off. Ina's mouth twitched. She'd only blurted out the captain's identity reflexively. She hadn't really thought she was helping. For some reason, Chess's offhand dismissal irritated her. If circumstances had allowed, she would have snapped back. "What's he going to do?" Bouquet Lywin whispered, alarmed. They looked up to see Chess walking along the torn deck where the magical claw had struck. He stopped at the broken edge and gazed down at the churning ocean. The hurricane thinned. The pirates, floating in midair, finally registered the fairy tale emblem on Chess's arm and stared in disbelief. "That emblem? He's a fairy tale magician?" One of them shrieked. "I knew it. Mar, cough. How could a merchant ship that size only have 3 pathetic amateurs? Even better, crushing a fairy tale magician underfoot would be so much fun. Heh." Despite their swagger and the bluster of some fools nearly revealing too much, the pirates quietly activated magic circles beneath their feet and rose to a higher, safer altitude. A man who had blocked Captain Clooney's magic was not to be trifled with. They needed to keep their aerial advantage. Chess watched them. A faint light flickered in his right palm, and a monster card appeared. "Aerial advantage? Not here." "I don't care what you think of me," he said, smiling, "but one thing I should correct." He spread his hands and pointed over his shoulder at Ina and the others, his gaze sharpening. "They're not trash. They're excellent magicians." Then Chess leapt off the merchant ship and plunged into the sea. "Mr. Chess?" Ina and the others cried out, scrambling toward the edge. Before they could reach him, a harsh, guttural roar echoed across the water. Roar! The sea exploded into spray as a dark yellow shape shot into the sky. Bony wings sliced through the wind. Nodes like energy cores along its spike-covered body glowed with a fierce red light. Up close, the pirate's bravado crumbled. It was a bone dragon, eyes fierce, its whole presence radiating malice. A monster card materialized, Cursed Dragon, 5-star. A cursed, malevolent dragon laced with dark energy. Chess sat astride the beast, grinning broadly. "All right then, since you said it'd be super interesting, let's start the show." "Cursed Dragon, take them down!" At Chess's command, the dragon roared. Its bony wings whipped up a chaotic hurricane as it dove into the pirate formation at terrifying speed. In this world, even a smaller dragon was enough to break the pirates' composure. Those closest were sent flying before they could react, cannonballed into the sea and exploding in towering splashes. In seconds, more than half the pirates' aerial unit was gone. "Damn it! I don't care what kind of monster that is. If it's magic-made, we can fight it," one pirate shouted. "Everyone, attack! Use magic! Reduce that monster and the fairy tale mage to dust." The remaining pirates clenched their teeth and overcame their fear. They raised spinning magic circles and launched a barrage of wind, lightning, and fire from every direction, trying to pin the cursed dragon and cut off its flight paths. Chess patted the dragon's bony flank with a chuckle. "You're not the only ones who can use magic. Cursed Dragon, show these fools your true power." The dragon's eyes flared crimson. Inside its gaping maw, a searing light began to whirl, concentrate, and compress. Hellfire! Heat shimmered through the air, warping the space around it. When the hellfire struck, it incinerated the pirate's magic on contact. Then the dragon arched its head and swung the undiminished inferno through the sky. Screams tore through the air as more pirates plummeted into the sea, trailing smoke. The aerial force was annihilated in an instant. The Black Griffin trio on the burning deck stared, stunned. Ina's breath came fast as she focused on the man riding the bone dragon's back. "Summoning legendary creatures through cards," she whispered, voice trembling. "I remember. Now I remember," she said, eyes wide. "He's Chess Linadoga, an S-class mage of fairy tale." Bouquet Lywin swept his gaze over the merchant ship, scorched by hellfire. "Incredible. Is this what a fairy tale magician is like?" "Fire! Someone put out the flames," a crewman cried, panicked as smoke and embers climbed into the air.